today, actually. He's flying back home from New York, and he'll be back in the greater San Diego area sometime tomorrow, finishing up his week of vacay. I'm sure he's going to be jet lagged as all get out.
I promise you, and we're not going to talk to him about it beforehand. He's going to show up to Bar Car Friday.
Yeah, let's do our best not to text him or talk about it. But if he's in San Diego, actually, it's going to come down to two things. It's either he's here or Sarah has intentionally planned something tomorrow morning to make sure that he stays at the house. But yeah, I would say it's 50-50. I would say it's 50-50 depending on how much forward planning Sarah Dale, his wonderful wife, has made. But anyways, we'll be wrapping up this week with the two of us, we presume. And then next week, it's going to be Fletchy touring around the Midwest on your way where? Where's the final landing spot?
Let's see. We're starting. So our flight Friday goes to Detroit first, and then we get the Detroit layover all night long, and then into Wisconsin, get a rental car, drive all over Wisconsin to see all of Kendall's family, because that's where they all are. And then we take that rental car, go all the way down around whatever lake that is, the big one that juts into Wisconsin and Michigan, and then go to the other side of the lake and go to this place called Holland, which is in Michigan.
Oh, yeah. It's right near Grand Rapids. They have tulips and windmill. It looks like Holland.
It's supposed to be beautiful.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go. And we got a badass lake house with my whole family there, because that's where my sister lives.
That's sweet.
So this is a big family week, unlike the vacation we did the last couple of years, which was me and Kendall getting drunk on a beach in Mexico. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's look, family is good, especially on the doorsteps of what will be a long and very fun and very entertaining college football season. Both you and I obviously have roles with the Aztecs.
Bye, family. Have fun.
Yeah. Once the football season kicks off, it's pretty much, hey, Ann, you're in charge until February.
I had the conversation with Kendall yesterday. I said, you know what's around the corner? And she said, I know. I just had my first nightmare last night about going back to school, because that's a thing that happens to teachers, apparently.
Dude. Oh my, I just realized something. Hang on. Oh my goodness. So that same awful feeling that we all woke up with as kids, teachers get it too.
And like 2 weeks before, because teachers end up going to school about a week before kids go to school.
Oh my gosh. It never dawned on me. Of course. I mean, it's work, obviously. All of them are looking forward to the summer break.
You don't know who's going to be in your class. Usually every class has one Rich Ornberger in it.
Yeah, dude, I was a problem. I was such an a-hole, especially at the start of the year, because you're testing boundaries. You're trying to like figure out what you could get away with. Like, I was definitely the kid who was getting sent to the office early on, or being asked to do chores for my teacher. Like, I'm pretty sure like you have a write-up and they pass it from teacher to teacher.
They know.
They know. So I feel like my teachers immediately gave me chores like, hey, you know what you need to do? You need to carry all of these things to the main office. They need them at the main office right now. And so it would just give me an excuse to be out of the class for 20 minutes so they could get a break for me. Or, hey, push this cart back to the audiovisual lab because I don't want to see you for the next 15 minutes.
So that's also what Kendall's dealing with. And then I reminded her that about 2 weeks after that happens, come August 31st, that's when it starts going on Saturdays. Yep. I'm out of the house all day. And then on Sundays, I'm on the couch all day.
Dude, it's the best part of the year.
I love it so much.
And it's the busiest part of the year. I love the fall for so many reasons. I mean, football, obviously, but I also love the holidays associated with the fall. I really, since especially having kids, enjoy Halloween. I think it's so much fun. It's like you get the whole community together. All the kids are out running around. All the parents get a chance to talk. And 1 year I had to dress up like Hagrid. 1 year I had to dress up like Dr. Robotnik. I love Thanksgiving. I love the fact that you don't have to buy anybody anything. Everybody just comes over to eat food. Like, that's the coolest idea we've ever came up with as a country. Also, Christmas. I mean, who doesn't? I'm part of every year, the biggest tree I could buy. That's the answer to that question. However tall your ceilings, that's how tall your Christmas tree should be. That's how it works. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the fall. Oh, yeah, and by the way, I failed to mention football.
Now, probably better for off-air conversation, but are you doing Red Zone Radio again this year?
Yeah. So me and Hartman, we are going to be, I believe our shift is only 3 hours this year, which is better because I'll tell you right now, 4 hours of that show, I'm wiped. I am complete. So we shaved off an hour. So we're from if the clock stays where it's currently at, we're from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. But they may shift it, like, because kickoffs on the West Coast are 10. So maybe they'll mess with the timing. But that's where we're at right now. And then
that is one of the best listens possible during football season, by the way. If you are driving at all on a Sunday, which I recommend more just being on your couch and watching Scott Hansen. But if you are driving and you're in the car, Steve and Rich do such a good job of keeping you up to what's actually going on. I love when you guys get into football mode and you're talking and Steve says, Richard, the Cincinnati Bengals just scored a touchdown.
Yeah, and we do have a policy on that show. If you can interrupt as long as it's for a turnover, a touchdown, a score update. Like, there's a couple of things where it's like, it doesn't matter where somebody is, how deep in thought they are.
Rich, you know all about this. The Chargers just threw an interception.
Yeah.
You remember.
So tell me what it was like when it was late in the game with Phillip Rivers giving the game away, Rich. I'll be like, all right, you know what? This is Justin Herbert. This has nothing to do with Phillip Rivers. Why is he catching strays? That guy's making kids in Alabama right now.
Rich, is it fair to compare Drake May's early season to Tom Brady?
Right, yeah. It's always something like that. So Derek Carr with the Saints, will he ever eclipse Drew Brees' stats? No. The short answer is no. That is the craziest thing anybody has ever said. I can't wait. I know all of you can't wait. So we will continue breaking down divisions here on this show as we continue our NFL preseason divisional preview. I mean, we're within striking distance now, almost 40 days away. We have the Hall of Fame game coming up next week between the Bears and the Houston Texans. All over NFL Network this morning, there were vistas of Bears training camp. I mean, it's crazy what's going on right now. We are so close. And, oh, by the way, we have college football kicking off right here in San Diego in under 40 days.
August 31st. Cannot wait for it. I believe we're at 33. I believe 33. Oh my gosh. 33 days and some change. So it's either 33 or 34. I don't have that countdown up. I do have the NFL one, but 33 days and some change. And Richie, that's going to be so much fun, man. Like, it's funny. Did you see, and we'll play it later, but the Deshaun Foster opening comments at the Big Ten Media Days?
Yeah.
It's super awkward, super uncomfortable. Look, I listened to an interview he did afterwards. That's not who he is.
No.
He's actually very well-spoken, and he's a great football mind. But it's just so awkward and so uncomfortable, and the total opposite feeling you got when Sean Lewis first took the mic.
So, Big Ten, the conference, it's now exploded up to, I don't know how many teams. It's close to or over 20 teams now. It includes obviously USC, and it includes UCLA from Southern California now. To me, that was one of those barriers that maybe it doesn't directly benefit the Aztecs, but in my opinion, it kind of does tangentially. I look at the addition of two Southern California teams to a major conference, and I think to myself, well, why not San Diego State? They have a brand new stadium. They have a lot of excitement around their program with the hiring of Sean Lewis. As long as they're better than they were last year, which is obviously the aim every single season, but after somewhat of a disappointing season on the Mesa and a lot of changes made around the football program, I'm sure that's Sean Lewis's goal as well. And with those changes made, what's to say that if they don't have more success, one of these major conferences won't say, wow, USC and UCLA really work for the Big Ten, ... So we should go after San Diego State. I think it's one of the, I'm not going to say it's one of the best things that's happened to the school, but I think it's one of the better things that has happened to the school that hasn't happened directly to the school, having a couple of these teams who are geographically near the Aztecs, who are also playing Division I football, being absorbed by a major conference, because I do think there's going to be other conferences, or even potentially that one. Like, let's not look past that. Even potentially the Big Ten, who are going to be interested in that area too. You have two LA schools. Why not add a San Diego school? If you're the Big 12, wow, the Big Ten is thriving with USC and UCLA. We better gobble up San Diego State before somebody else does, because who's to say it won't be the ACC? I mean, the ACC absorbed Stanford. So why couldn't they grab San Diego State? And at least, now you have, both corners of the state of California covered.
College football is going to be exciting this year. I don't love all the changes that have happened, but I do think it creates opportunities. And by the way, there is a college football playoff slot allotted to the group of 5 this year. There is a pathway. Who knows who it's going to be? I think you want it to be the Mountain West this year. I think you really do, no matter who it is in the Mountain West. Obviously, we'd love for it to be the Aztecs, but Boise State is supposed to have this unreal team this year, right? And so if it's a Mountain West school that gets in, that bodes better for the conference. You want it to be as good as possible. I can't wait, Richie. Did you watch any of the Padres yesterday? Holy crap.
How could you not?
Who in the world is this team?
Well, this is a team that's proving something that I was discussing a little bit yesterday with you, Fletch. I was saying, hey, check it out. If I'm an owner, if I'm Tom Seidler, if I'm part of this ownership group that owns the San Diego Padres, if I'm anybody who exists in the front office, who has any say into how things should go, what my thought process is, this is like a mini playoffs for us. This roster has a lot to prove. And I'm sure Mike Schilt had some private conversations with this team or individuals on this team to impress upon them how important this road trip really is. If they went out there and flopped around and they ended up sub 500 heading into the trade deadline, that would indicate to ownership, hey, when we ask this team to win us games, like it's crunch time, they can't perform. So what are we going to expect late in the season when they sneak into the postseason based on where the record is now? That's how it would have to happen, right? They would be sneaking into the postseason. What happens then? Are they going to be able to win games for us? So what's it worth to us betting our future on this team now? Well, if you show out during this 9-game roadie and you beat some good teams. So they've taken a series now from the Cleveland Guardians, who are the class of the AL. I mean, they're in second place. They have the best home record in all of Major League Baseball. They have like the 3rd best record in all of baseball. They do that to them. Then they go to Nationals and convincingly beat the tar out of them for the past 2 nights. I mean, that was a 4-0 shutout victory. Randy Vasquez has never looked better from the mound, and he's been dominant through 5 starts now. And then you go out with your ace right now because Darvish and Musgrove are hurt, and he goes out there and he holds up fine, but it was the bats around this lineup who really impressed with 20 hits and 12 runs.
Jerks and Profar does not like the Nationals.
No.
And I love every second of it.
I do too.
I don't know what it is about Jerks and Profar. I really don't. Like, he's having this phenomenal year, but inside the phenomenal year, there's these 3 little pockets of Jerks and Profar where he's completely showed out. It was against the Dodgers immediately after Will Smith called him irrelevant. You remember that?
Yep.
They were asking, well, why'd you guys throw a Jerks and Profar? And Will Smith, the catcher of the Dodgers, said, there's no reason to think that we purposefully threw at him. He's kind of irrelevant. Next day, Jerks and Profar is a monster game. And then in the Nationals series, he hits a clutch home run, and he kind of flexes. No, it was a walk-off hit. Flexes to the Nationals dugout during the celebration. The next day they throw at him. The next day he hits a home run. And here, this is weeks after that. And Jerks and Profar, 2 games in a row against the Nationals, has hit home runs. He's an impressive human being, man.
Dude, he's impressive. The Padres, they are impressive when they're on. I look, they're on right now. And who knows how long this stays this way.
Well, if we're following the math of the season, that was it.
Right. Look, as soon as they get a few games over 500, they start to tail and they start to spiral. And it could be as bad, and we've seen this 4 times throughout the season, it could be as bad as 5 losses in a row. Now, again, if I'm the front office and I'm peeking in on the Padres at the trade deadline and saying, all right, they've been informed. We need you to treat this like we're in the playoffs right now, and we need to take this seriously right now because there's a lot to prove about this roster ahead of the trade deadline. Again, I don't know if those conversations have happened, but I certainly know if I was in charge of making decisions with this team, I would encourage those conversations to happen because we need to see what this team's made of. And so far, so good. So let's hope it keeps up. Also, a storyline that's under discussed coming out of that game because of how hot the bats were. Like I said, 20 hits across 9 frames, and you have the grand slam from Profar. You have Jackson Merrill with a 4-hit game. He homers. Like this team was on fire at the plate. Matt Waldron, he lurched out to an early hole. He dug his grave in his own words, and he fought his way out of it. What an incredible performance by him, because after giving up 3 runs in the first inning, he comes back, granted, in the third with the lead. So that helps. But still, I mean, it's pretty amazing that he was able to sustain and pitch 6 innings for this team, because that would have really hampered the arms in the bullpen, especially when you're kind of stressing this pitching staff. They're lightheanded right now.
Kev caught up with Jackson Merrill, Kevin Acey, in his article yesterday, caught up with Jackson Merrill, and Jackson said, I don't even want to talk about our offense because we know what that is. I want to talk about Matt Waldron shutting the door right in their face. That was the key. He took the life out of them the whole rest of the game.
Amazing.
You love that from Jackson Merrill, who shouldn't be this composed and smart about what he says to the media, right? But this was the ultimate showing of we got our pitchers back, which they have not had Matt Waldron's back this season.
No.
I think he's up to 5-9 on the year right now, and he's pitched more like a 9-5 starter. So it's when you look at Matt Waldron in the season that he's had, he's a sub-4 ERA. He's been putting up innings. He's done enough to win a lot of the games that he's pitched in, and he's lost a lot of the games that he's pitched in. So the offense hasn't had his back all year. So that quote from Jackson Merrill, that's not just a thank you to Matt Waldron for last night. That is a thank you to Matt Waldron for the entire season. And I'm sorry, Matt Waldron, that our offense has not had your back so far this year, because you have been our ace, like you said earlier, Rich.
Okay, so the quiet story that nobody wants to talk about yet, but I'll just mention, keep an eye on Xander Bogaerts.
Did pretty well.
That guy's raking right now.
I mean, they're all singles.
They're all singles. But
literally all of them.
But dude, it's just, so he comes back from this injury, the shoulder injury, and he hasn't looked better. I mean, I'm talking about since he's been a Padre. He's looked better in his career, obviously, but you start to peek in on what it's looked like over the past 7 games, what it's looked over, the past 15 games. Too large of a sample to judge because we're going back too far. But I mean, he's raking right now.
Since he's come back, since he put on the All-Stars or the Padres uniform right before the All-Star break, he is 14 of 29. That's good for a 483 average. All 14 of them have been singles.
Okay.
So you do worry about the power, but I don't worry about 14 of 29.
No.
If he wants to keep a 483 average going all year, I'll take all singles.
No, again, Luis Arraez. Okay. I'm going to go all the way back to a conversation I had earlier this baseball season with JP Morosi. I said to him, look, obviously everybody talks about launch angle. The game has switched to home runs, walks, and strikeouts. There's less onus placed on players for striking out. It's not nearly the embarrassment it used to be, back in the Tony Gwynn days, which isn't long ago if you really think about it. A lot's changed over the past 2.5 decades. So when you have players like Luis Arraez, when you have players like Jerks and Profar, who, by the way, can hit for average, but he can also hit for power. When you have a player like Xander Bogaerts who can get out there and lay down singles and get on base, like how important are those guys to your lineup? And he goes, well, Jerks and Profar. I mean, he's hitting like Aaron Judge right now. Like he's one of the best players in baseball, and that's the truth. He really is. Jerks and Profar is putting together what could be argued an MVP season if there weren't so many other talented players to be discussed in that conversation.
Really just one. Shohei Ohtani.
Really just one in the National League, and it's Shohei Ohtani. But I digress to prove the point that you need in your lineup, he said, probably about 3 of those guys who just are consistently on base, are constantly giving starting pitchers or relievers something to think about. Like imagine you're starting your outing and you have somebody buzzing the base paths, taking healthy leads, giving you troubles early on. It's a mental game when you're a starting pitcher or when you're a pitcher at all. So that's so important. You need to have those gnats flying around the nostrils of these big, strong, confident players on the mound. And if that happens enough, eventually they're going to swat at one. You know what I mean? And they're going to make a mistake. That's the importance of having base runners. That's the importance of playing a little small ball. Last year's team, it felt like everybody was swinging out of their shoes. It was a lot of selfish baseball. It was a lot of me stuff going on. This year, it feels like a team. It feels like there's more situational hitting going on, and that feels good because this team has bailed each other out.
You want this one?
I think I do.
Oh,
I'm ready.
The big fella came in, and he's hot. He's heavy. He's Rich Orberger.
Wow. Thank
It's
you for that
halftime, Rich.
introduction.
What do you got for us?
The Minnesota Vikings have a very talented young wide receiver named Jordan Addison.
Ooh.
And he found himself in a pretty dark place, in his own words, earlier this month on suspicion of driving under the influence. So he spoke out. His first public comment since the incident was yesterday at training camp. And he said, "I was surprised by the support I received. I was not thinking this was how it was going to be, but it's really important for me." So back on July 12th, a California Highway Patrol officer found Addison asleep behind the wheel of his Rolls Royce on Interstate 105 near LAX. The car was blocking a lane of the freeway, and a DUI investigation led to his arrest. So as of Wednesday, there has been no formal charging documents filed in court, and there has been no discipline levied by the league. We'll see where the investigation leads, but not a good look for Jordan Addison, not a good look for the Vikings, not a good look for the NFL. But like many other places, you don't just have coworkers, you have friends, you have people who are looking out for you, you have mentors. And I'm very glad to hear that people are taking him under their wing and giving him some guidance. And look, one of the things you got to remember when you talk about athletes, even professional athletes, is these are young people. This is obviously a mistake, and hopefully one he learns from.
Young people make dumb mistakes, yes. Now, I don't know if you know this, Rich, but I am a general manager of a dynasty fantasy football team.
Yes, I do remember you mentioning that.
I invested quite a bit in Jordan Addison. I invested quite a bit in Rashee Rice.
Sure.
My boys have had a rough offseason. All right. I'm going to need everyone to button it up a little bit as we get into training camp. And, the NFL's been in communication with me. I understand we might have some suspensions coming down. We need to weather those and just stay strong and keep our head above water and then get back on the field and start putting up some numbers, boys.
I am so glad you used the term button it up, because that's exactly what Lamar Jackson needs to do. So
what is going on with him?
His training camp debut yesterday, but the NFL's reigning MVP lasted only an hour. So after missing the first 3 days of Ravens training camp, Jackson left the field midway through Wednesday's workout. He looked weary. He walked across the field into the team facility. He wasn't feeling well, according to a source. So Todd Monken, he was asked after practice, what's going on with Lamar? He looked awful. He was throwing interceptions. He didn't look himself. And he was like, kind of joking and laughing. He was like, you have to talk to Lamar.
Lamar got a poop.
It sounds like Lamar got a poop.
So remember, there was a couple years ago, it might have been like a Thanksgiving game where Lamar left the sideline.
Primetime game.
In a big moment in the game as well. And he was doing the, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
He was doing the butt waddle.
Yeah, the run. I think Lamar might have IBS.
So listen, there are certain people who they know certain foods disagree with them, but they can't help themselves. Or like you said, it could be one of those long-standing situations that he deals with that he may not want public. And that could be the situation too. But either way, this is now not just those two incidents. This has been several times where we've heard about Lamar Jackson feeling ill. So this is something the Ravens know about, they've been dealing with. And like I said, whether it's he had hot wings and maybe he's not a hot wings guy from an intestinal standpoint.
Maybe he just drank a bunch of milk.
Or he's
lactose intolerant.
He got into the Ben & Jerry's last night. Whatever the situation is, Lamar had a poop. The Padres. So they explode with this 20-hit performance in game 2 during this 3-game set against the Washington Nationals last night. Jackson Merrill, we talked about a little bit, but he had 4 hits, finished with a homer shy of the cycle. Jerkson Profar and Kyle Higashioka, they both go deep. And Profar, was a grand slam?
I don't think so. You said that earlier.
Was it a 3-run homer? It might have been a 3-run homer. But unbelievable. Xander Bogaerts, he continues to look, the bat's hot. I don't want to overstate it, but the bat's hot. He continues to impress after coming back from his injury.
2-run shot. Arise was on base.
So Padres cruise to that 12-3 victory in Washington. They get set for getaway day today. So in 2.5 hours, They're going to have first pitch against the Nationals. It's going to be Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. What are your expectations for Cease today? Because we saw a great start now from Randy Vasquez. We saw Matt Waldron get himself out of trouble after a rough first inning. How do you think Cease is going to perform?
So over his last 2 starts, Dylan Cease has looked like Cy Young Dylan Cease, like the guy who finished in the runner-up a couple years ago, Dylan Cease. He has allowed, I want to say, just 2 hits in his last 2 starts combined total, and he's been phenomenal. You hope that he continues to build on that. Now, I did mention yesterday that it's nice seeing those first 4 starts after the All-Star break where everybody looked fresh and rested and ready to go. This will be the time where, because now everybody, they skipped a spot in the rotation. Yeah, they had a day off, but this is a true 5 days off, 1 day on. And so Dylan Cease on true rest, we'll see how he looks today, because this could be a little bit different, because the previous 2 starts, one of them was leading into the All-Star break, knowing you have a break coming up. The other one is coming off an All-Star break, and you should be as fresh as you've been all season. Curious to see Dylan Cease today. Hope the best. Maybe it's 3 starts with 3 hits given up. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be very nice. Speaking of breaks, we got to run and take one ourselves. We'll be back with some of the strangest sound you've ever heard at an introductory press conference. That's on the other side.
Hit us up on the talkback mic. That's a little microphone icon right next to the play button when you're listening to San Diego Sports 760 on the free iHeartRadio app. The talkback mic. Leave us a 30-second message with the talkback mic. Talkback mic, talkback mic, talkback mic. This update is presented by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. We will start off here with the Padres, who are rolling. They took down the Nationals 12-3 yesterday behind another solid start from Matt Waldron. Morning baseball today, 9:05 first pitch. Dylan Cease is going to be taking the mound for the Padres. Some news and notes from around the NFL. Lamar Jackson looked like he was sick in practice yesterday, lasted just an hour. In his first practice back with the Ravens. 49ers drama. Brandon Ayuk was at practice, but not playing with the 49ers. Video did get him going into the office with John Lynch. Trent Williams, the all-pro left tackle, also holding out for a restructured contract. And training camp can be brutal, man. Vikings cornerback Mekhi Blackmon tearing his ACL on his first day of practices. He is a second-year cornerback. And Patriots new quarterback Drake May turning eyes early in the preseason. Kitchen sink clogs and Monday morning traffic. Anderson Plumbing router drain specialist. They clear clogs fast. Their $63 drain stoppage guarantee works with snake unclogging, camera inspection, and degreaser treatments. Call or book online. They always know what's below. Nobody wows clients like they do. Big Rich, TD, and Fletch on a Thursday. A couple more days without TD, and then the whole gang. Well, actually, not quite the whole gang because I'll be out next week, but we'll be back together soon enough. Don't you worry. Coming up on the show today, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Luke Bryan August 8th at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater in Chula Vista. I did see today that this show is going to sell out. So deets and seats at Ticketmaster.com if you want to buy them, but keep listening for your chance to win. We were talking about in the update there a few of the different storylines going around in the NFL. And I know we mentioned the Lamar Jackson thing last segment, but Lamar Jackson, he got to poop, and he got to poop frequently.
Poop.
Speaking of gotten to poop, Rich, welcome back.
Yeah, buddy. Sorry about that. That took a little longer than I thought. It wasn't a Lamar Jackson situation. I can promise you that. But let's just say there was a little bit of a log jam in the break room.
Also, camera. But we have tons of other storylines going around through the NFL. Training camp can be brutal. I don't know, Richie, you were in a few of these, but injuries in training camp always hit a little bit different. And Mekhi Blackmon, who's a second-year cornerback with the Minnesota Vikings, last year he started 3 games, played in 15, and it looked like this year he was actually going to get a starting job for the Minnesota Vikings, or at least be able to compete for one. Tears his ACL on his first day of practice before the 2024 season. That's got to be the worst.
It's 100%. The only thing worse than tearing a knee ligament or having a season-ending injury basically during training camp is hurting yourself late in the season or in the postseason, because it means instead of enjoying the offseason and recovering and getting healthy, getting your whole body healthy, you're going to be concentrating on getting one area of your body back to its original health while you're not able to get the rest of your body as strong as you would like to.
Now, we saw video yesterday at Kansas City's training camp of, I believe, who is the wide receiver that screwed up the play, the Travis Kelce pitchback play because it was a penalty?
Kadarius Toney.
So Kadarius Toney yesterday in training camp, one of the first routes he runs of the year, he gets popped by a defensive linebacker, and Travis Kelce gets to the dude's face and screams at him like a leader should, because it's a non-contact drill. It was a 7-on-7. And so I feel like at that point, like, temper's obviously running high within the Chiefs offense protecting defense. But when there's a moment like a guy tearing an ACL, and a lot of times you know it when it happens, does the whole entire practice stop?
Well,
does everyone just get that feeling like, oh, I feel bad for this guy?
It depends on the injury. Yes, always that. You always feel terrible for a guy, especially it happens during a team drill where the whole team is watching the field, and it's, the starting offense against the starting defense, or it's the twos against the twos, and you're all concentrating on one field. If it happens on a separate field, like sometimes you break out and you do individual drills, the offensive line's working on one area, the wide receivers, maybe they're working with the quarterbacks, the linebackers and the defensive backs are working together on a drill, the defensive line's apart. If somebody gets hurt during that portion of practice, oftentimes it doesn't really sink your heart as much unless you hear screaming from an opposite side of the field. But when it's in the middle of a team drill and everybody's attention are on that field, the problem is also, this is the ruthless nature of sports a little bit, but you don't have time at practice because there's limitations with how long you're actually allowed to be on the field to, like, take a knee and say a prayer for a guy. They literally move the drill 10 yards forward and they keep working. So while you are contemplating the rest of your career, when you're laying on the ground wondering about the severity of the injury you just suffered, there's whistles blowing and people getting coached behind you. It's just the
How does that not get inside your guys' head? Because, like, you see, like, a situation like that, Mekhi Blackmon tears his ACL. That's obviously, like, if he's lucky, he might be able to get back by the end of the season. Probably not.
Yeah.
How mentally does that work for the rest of the guys on the field who are thinking, well, this could happen to me at any second?
Well, you're just pretty used to it. By the time you get to the NFL, you've seen a fair share of season-ending injuries. You know what it looks like. You know what it sounds like. Obviously, the times where, and this sounds, again, a little bit too business-focused, but the times where it really has an effect on you, this really sounds bad. But it's when it's a really important player. When you realize with that knee or with that neck injury or with that back injury or whatever injury it is, or that ankle or that leg break, there goes our season. Like, that's a terrible feeling, because especially if it's early in the season or it's training camp and you're looking at potentially what could have been a double-digit win season, and you're questioning everything now. It's like, well, what are they going to do? What are we going to do? It's one of, it feels very ruthless and self-interested, but a lot of times when a star player goes down, the first thing that his teammates are thinking is like, oh, we're screwed. Like, not, I hope he's okay.
Now, I did put the link in the rundown, Rich, but the first look at Drake May from Patriots training camp, not sure if you've seen this video yet. People in New England, at least, are talking about it like, oh, this dude can throw the ball.
So Drake May, if one thing is going to impress everybody, is he's pretty mobile. And I've watched a lot of Drake May. He's pretty mobile, and he can throw it to anywhere on the football team. He will dazzle you with
There's a video of him dropping a bomb about 50 yards downfield to Jalen Reagor, who got drafted by the Eagles, was like a deep ball specialist, and then now he's with New England. Not sure how he got there, but
where he's going to struggle, and this was the same in college, is when he has defenders in his face, his improvisational skills from the pocket get a little wonky because if he has pressure, his timing's off. He's not a great timing thrower anyways. Like, he's not a great anticipatory thrower of the football, but especially if he sees pressure and it breaks down the timing of these routes anyways, he'll struggle. But look,
it's a good thing New England's not starting a bunch of rookies on the offensive line.
Oh, no, they are. I don't know if you knew this, but they definitely are. But that's a stamp, by the way, what I just said about Drake May, that you can put on just about every single quarterback coming out of college football, because it's really difficult to find a guy who's played long enough at the college level to really have a comfort when facing pressure. That's the reason why Brock Purdy, in my opinion, he sailed through his rookie season, because he played so long at Iowa State. He had so much experience changing protections and making sure that he knew where his hot reads were in case they brought an extra blitzer off this side of the defensive formation. Like, he understood those things, because you get more nuanced understanding of football the more you play football. A lot of these guys who are starting for NFL rosters now, they've played very little college football because they're in a big rush to get drafted. I don't blame them. Get that money, buddy. But also, experience matters.
Now, the 49ers were on field for the first time yesterday, and not sure if you've seen any of the pictures, Rich. I mean, I know maybe a lot of people haven't. Brock Purdy looks like he put on about 20 pounds of muscle.
Okay, I'm looking him up right now, because this is the second time you brought this up on the show.
It's looking good, man.
Brock Purdy training.
Just type in Brock Purdy muscle.
Okay, Brock Purdy muscle. This is ridiculous. I feel ridiculous. This is going to change my whole algorithm. Oh my God. Look at those quads.
Okay, if we're talking about whose algorithm here is messed up forever, grannyzone.com boy over there.
Dude. That is a Ben Fletcher profile.
It's not.
I can't stress to you enough how even when the emails hit my email account, or really our show's email account, all it says is, "Hey Ben, I'm a hot
Judith.
Yeah, hey Ben, it's Ethel.
It's Gertrude.
And I'm
still looking for a Buick."
You could park your car anywhere, Fletch. Yeah, it's really great. It really is.
He looks good.
He does. Look, he's a unit anyways. The guy, look, the 49ers have done a good job of surrounding a roster with some sturdy looking athletes, and Brock Purdy's no different. Brock Purdy, he can withstand some abuse. Now, over the past couple of seasons, the elbow injury 2 seasons ago, the head injury that he suffered, I mean, not all of it's his fault, but they need to find a way to make sure this guy stays out of injury trouble, because that was a key to their success last year. On the other side of the bye week, when he was able to get healthy, the 49ers started rolling. But he needs to keep himself healthy this season. 17 games is a long season. 16 games was a long season.
Would you say having a left tackle is pretty important to that?
I would argue.
Well, 49ers left tackle All-Pro Trent Williams is holding out.
Okay.
For a contract adjustment. So Albert Breer this morning said that this one's going to be much less complicated than Brandon Ayuk, because they just want to move money around. And ultimately, it's probably going to end up helping the 49ers. Trent Williams just wants a little more guaranteed for this season.
I don't blame him. Look, you are the best offensive lineman on a team. Hands down.
Maybe in the NFL.
He's starting to slow down a little bit, but he's one of the better offensive linemen. Well, he is the best on the 49ers, and they did not have a particularly good offensive line last year. And that's kind of part of the reason why Brock Purdy's got to protect himself better. They're going to have to, and this might be a little bit on Kyle Shanahan too, they're going to need to find a way to get the ball out of his hand faster if he's not getting the protection that he needs to operate. So Trent Williams is a linchpin to their success, but so is cap room. So if they can move some money around on Trent Williams' contract and get Brandon Ayuk back, because they have a little bit more wiggle room in terms of cap space the next 2 seasons especially, boy, wouldn't that be a benefit?
Now, Ayuk is there. So he was on the field yesterday, not practicing, but he was there, and there was video that caught him and John Lynch talking on the sideline, the general manager of the 49ers, and there's video of Brandon Ayuk following John Lynch into the facility, going up to his office.
It's a show of good faith.
It's happening.
It definitely feels like it's happening, and we sort of predicted this. I think you haven't been worried. I've been spitballing ideas about trade scenarios, but I've said it from the start. The most likely place a free agent or somebody who's holding out for a better contract is going to land is typically the place he's currently at. Because also, where's he going to go where he's going to have a better opportunity to win a Super Bowl?
It'd be Kansas City or maybe Cincinnati. Those are the only two places,
I mean,
and neither of them are looking.
and by the way, I don't think the 49ers would allow a trade to happen
No.
in Kansas City because they just got beat by Kansas
That's
City.
why all the rumors you've seen are like the Chargers, who won 5 games last year,
Exactly.
or the Steelers, who knows what their quarterback situation is even going to be.
Coming up next, a bizarre moment in front of all of his new friends. We'll play it for you. TD and Fletch, we got those Luke Bryan tickets for you coming up later in the show. So if you want to win those, and by the way, not much later. So if you're listening to us right now, I suggest you keep listening for those Luke Bryan tickets. Very important that you hang in there because I'm gonna guess that next hour pretty early in the hour, you're going to hear about how to win those. Also, we're going to continue our NFL divisional preview. But before we do that, a little bit of a preview of what the Big Ten is going to look and sound like coming up next season. So, Deshaun Foster, if you missed it, he's the UCLA Bruins head coach. Really excited because the Bruins are going to be joining the Trojans as two Southern California teams joining the Big Ten this upcoming season. A lot of conference realignment, a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. So you assume his first opportunity to speak to the media covering the Big Ten, he would exude that level of enthusiasm, that level of interest and excitement and charisma that you would expect trademark of a former player. Give this a listen. Okay, cut. Deshaun, very good, very good. But a little bit of energy, a little bit more enthusiasm. All right, everybody, speed, roll it, and action. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you wish you had a director yell cut?
Yes.
And you could get to redo it?
I told this story at about 2:00 yesterday when J-Riff and I were talking about this, but my first year working in radio, I was an intern at a tiny little ESPN station up in San Luis Obispo. We carried the Cal Poly Mustangs football games at halftime. I just had to do a little minute and a half sports report, a lot like my updates here before segments. And that was my only responsibility during the game, is a minute and a half. My Google Drive froze and the screen went blank and my mind went blanker. And I just didn't talk. And I didn't press a commercial. I did nothing. I just sat there and I was so confused and I didn't know what was happening and I panicked and I got nervous and I clutched up. So Deshaun, we're the same.
Actually, you're exactly the same in every way. And I've always said that. I've always said that Ben Fletcher is the Deshaun Foster of San Diego Sports 760. Here's the deal. He is not this soundbite. This was 64 seconds of awful. And I'm sure Deshaun Foster regrets it. Whatever happened there, a brain fart. Maybe he had something prepared but hated his speech and at the last second decided, I'm just going to riff. I'm just going to, speak extemporaneously. I'm going to see what I come up with in the moment. And it sounded like he remembered a couple of the talking points because he did mention the 123 national championships that the school has earned over its course of time participating in collegiate athletics. And, it sounded like there was a little something there prepared. But yeah, he cut it short. Good for him because it was going absolutely nowhere. Here's the one thing I will say. The Bruins, they have fielded a competitive football teams for parts of the past decade. They've been reliant over the past handful of years on a very veteran quarterback that has now transitioned into the NFL, DTR. And since then, it hasn't gone as smoothly. So obviously changes were made. Deshaun Foster's a newer face in college football in terms of a head coach, and we'll see where it goes from here. I will never judge somebody by the opening pages of the novel. I'm going to get to the middle parts of this book, when, you have a lot of character introductions out of the way and a lot of the plot setting. A lot of the rising action has been complete before I'm overly judgmental and I decide whether or not it's a good book. Deshaun Foster, a little bit of a tough start though.
He jumped on a podcast later that night and he sounded great. And I listened to a clip of that and he was like super well spoken, very thoughtful with his response. He was kind of laughing at himself for what happened on stage. I think it was literally just a moment where press conferences look a lot different now than they used to look. So if you notice in that shot, he's the only person in it, and it's a pretty wide angle. I think he was probably standing there, and either there was a monitor with reporters 40 yards away from him, or the reporters were legitimately 40 yards away from him.
And if you know anything about him as a player or a person or even a coach, and I don't know much admittedly, but from what I've read since this speech went viral, he's not that guy. He's not the rah-rah, hey, get out and come see us. You're going to be wowed by us. And No. He really truly wants you to view this product and make a decision for yourself whether or not they're worth a damn. And I appreciate that attitude. The problem for Deshaun Foster is, and this is the problem for every head coach, is you have to be very aware that everybody is watching everything. So if you're a recruit and you're considering coming to UCLA and this is going to be your head coach and this is your lasting impression or your last impression before making a decision of what team you're going to play for, not great. You have to be a great salesman to be a head coach in college football these days. So a little bit of a stumble there. I'm sure very forgivable from the athletic department. And also, if they win a whole bunch of games and they compete for the playoffs this year, nobody's going to remember where it started. Or maybe they will, but it's going to be a funny footnote in the overall positive year that they've had. But boy, oh boy, if it gets worse from here, if this isn't a very good football team, if he doesn't pan out as a head coach, this will come up again. Okay, we steer away from college football. We get back to the NFL with our preseason divisional breakdown. Also, like I mentioned, if you want to go see Luke Bryan in Chula Vista, be listening. Coming up next, it's Big Rich, TD, and Fletch.
Hour 2, Big Rich, TD, and Fletch. This update presented by Caltrans. Padres are rolling. They took down the Nationals yesterday 12-3 behind another solid start from Matt Waldron. Morning baseball today. Richie, 999, morning baseball?
No, no. The answer is absolutely not.
Like never?
Well, no, man, I never say never. You know my policy. I know when it's something feels like a no, and a 9999 hot dogs, 9 beers, 9 innings challenge right now feels like a no.
Yeah, you're probably right. 9:05 first pitch today. Dylan C is going to be taking the mound for the Friars. Some NFL headlines from around the league. Lamar Jackson got a poop, maybe. He is sick. He lasted just an hour in his first practice, looked weary. Todd Monken laughed it off when he was asked. 49ers drama. Ayuk at practice, but not playing. Video did get him going into the office with John Lynch. And Trent Williams, the all-pro left tackle, holding out for a new contract. And the darkest part of football, Vikings cornerback Mekhi Blackmon tearing his ACL day 1 of practices and training camp. Attention, California drivers. The kids of Caltrans workers count on you to keep their loved ones safe. So when you see a highway work zone, please slow down and pay attention. Remember that somebody's loved one out there. Be work zone alert.
Big Rich, TD, and Fletch, happy Thursday to those who celebrate. We're celebrating a Padres victory. In fact,
with a 999.
We're not going to do that. That is not how we're celebrating. We're celebrating with a attaboy. Go get 'em, Padres. But I will say this, Jackson Farrell Merrill, the rookie all-star, the phenom. That guy can play some baseball. Jerkson Profar, the standout of this season in the National League, outside of Shohei Ohtani, nobody's been more consistent with a bat in his hand so far this season in the National League. He has an impressive game. Kyle Higashioka, which was kind of an afterthought signing, to be perfectly honest with you, this offseason, has really proven to be clutch in a lot of moments. This game, you don't necessarily need even the insurance run. You were beating the dog out of this team. The Nationals, though, a good team. And I mean, like, this is impressive what the Padres have been able to do over 2 series now on the road, because this is leading into the trade deadline. And as discussed, if they get this done this season, it's going to be because of the effort you saw right up before they made some decisions with the roster, because they do need rotation help. They probably could use some help elsewhere in the bullpen. I think if Fernando Tatis Jr. wakes up and becomes the player that he was supposed to be previously to the steroid ban or the performance-enhancing drug ban, if Manny Machado finds his way out of the slump, Xander Bogaerts has been good since he's come back from injury. At least he's still hitting, or I should say he's started hitting since he's been in the Padres uniform. And some of those other names I mentioned keep hitting. I don't think the lineup needs much help because they already secured Luis Arraez, who has been one of the most consistent bats also in the National League.
Yeah, potentially the 2 splashy trades of this season have already happened, and that's all you're going to get with Dylan Cease and Luis Arraez. Now, you might get a couple of pieces added to the starting rotation specifically to help you get into the postseason, but the hope is that probably whoever you're adding here is innings eaters, somebody who you might get a win with, but they're going to keep you in the game. That's really all you can ask for at this point.
A sub-4 ERA guy who can give you 6.
Sub-4, oh, yeah. I mean, that'd be incredible.
Well, I mean, but honestly, like a competent starter.
That's Matt Waldron.
Right. Well, Matt Waldron has been value added though, because he's had some rocky moments, but overall he's been super consistent. I'm talking about a guy who your offense is going to need to perform, but at very least he's going to get you into the middle innings so that you're not stressing your bullpen. Like, I agree with what you said. They do need help. They need somebody who's going to be healthy enough to last the rest of this season, who's a proven starter in this league, and maybe an older veteran, a guy who's had a little postseason experience.
Now, James Paxton is out there. James Paxton is exactly what you just said. And James Paxton, by the way, unlike Matt Waldron, has a really good record this year. He also just got DFA'd by the Dodgers. The Dodgers, who are desperate for pitching help at the trade deadline, much like the Padres, the Dodgers have dealt with a lot at the pitching position, a lot of injuries. They DFA'd a starting pitcher with a good record because the rest of his stats are god-awful.
Yeah.
And we'll see. James Paxton might be the move. That'd be a lot like Rich Hill coming in last year. It would feel almost exactly the same, in fact. But we'll see what the Padres do. They got a few days to figure it out. The hope is, though, Richie, and you kind of alluded to this, is that when Fernando's back from injury, he picks up where Jerks and Profar is leaving off, because we don't know if this is going to sustain with Jerks and Profar and Jackson Merrill. We really don't know if this is going to sustain with Michael King or Matt Waldron or Randy Vasquez. None of them have ever pitched this far into a season before. They're all over the innings limit that we thought kind of was going to be the case when they came in, but out of necessity, they're going to keep going. And so when Joe Musgrove gets back, he needs to pick up some slack. When Fernando Tatis Jr. comes back, he needs to be the lightning rod, because who knows if Jerks and Profar is going to continue to do so.
Well, so Jerks and Profar is a long time now MLB veteran, so I have more faith that what we're seeing, especially sustaining after the All-Star break, is what we're going to get the rest of the season. But to your point about those three pitchers in Jackson Merrill, first of all, it's his debut, and all three of those arms are untested going deep into any season at all. Like, this is their first real rattle out of the box doing this. So yeah, there's a lot of untested ground there. So I agree with you. An arm at the deadline and Fernando Tatis Jr. looking like Fernando. And hell, how about the leader of this team, Manny Machado, getting out of the 1.5-year slump he's been in? That would be cool too.
Yeah, if he were to go on one of his 40 or 50-day hot streaks where he's the best hitter in baseball, now's the time, Manny.
We'll get back
Can
to
we
the
see
Padres.
that now? That'd be nice.
We'll actually cover the Olympics a little bit here coming up. We've got some interesting news coming out of Paris. So we will cover that as well.
Have you seen where the surfers are staying?
Dude, there's so many cool things that have happened as a preamble to what may end up being a very cool Olympics. We'll get to all that. Morning monologues incoming. Also, we do have those Luke Bryan tickets to give away. So if you're listening right now, good. Keep listening, because you're going to win them very soon. Okay. The NFL preseason preview, our divisional breakdown continues with our last stop, actually. We have covered everywhere else. We got to go to the AFC South now.
We have not done the NFC West yet. I would know.
Oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. Oh my God. Actually, you know what? We'll call it. I thought we did it all. You're absolutely right. We never did the NFC West. We'll get to that.
Oh, we didn't do it because it's already so obvious who's going to win it. We didn't do it because it's really it's a one-horse race in the NFC West. That's why we didn't do it.
You're a sick puppy, and I knew this would happen. You know what? This is the reason why we saved it for last. Not because it's the best for last. It's because you make us sick to our stomach because you're a ceaseless 49ers honk. But yeah, we'll get to the NFC West later in this hour. But first, let's break down the AFC South. So you got the Titans coming off of a 6-win season. Ryan Tannehill is officially gone. So this is Will Levis's team.
We may have already done the AFC South.
Have we?
Why do I remember talking about Will Levis's cannon?
Well, we do talk about that a lot. I think it's because that video went viral.
I was talking about his arm.
Oh, right. So was I. He's got impressive forearms.
The video of him throwing to DeAndre Hopkins 45 yards down the field went very viral.
You would need a really impressive forearm.
Stop.
Colts, they have Anthony Richardson, so there's that. He's back off of injury.
We definitely talked about the AFC South.
Have we? We've done this? We might have done this week.
I think we did.
I'm thinking about this. I don't want to talk about this at all. We switch gears to the NFC West.
Wow!
Yeah, you might be absolutely right.
I remember talking about Anthony Richardson.
Actually, I will say this.
Definitely CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, we might have covered this week. I will say this. I am arguably one of the biggest CJ Stroud fans, but if I haven't said this already, then I say it for the first time now. And if I have, then it bears repeating. Year 2 is very different from year 1. A rookie quarterback can be a sensation because you sneak up on the league. And I very much so think the Texans snuck up on the league. So we'll see what happens coming up in year 2 for CJ Stroud. I do have the Texans winning the division. It could be a closer race than anybody's comfortable with. Okay, we do move on to the NFC West as a part of this preseason divisional breakdown. The NFC West is loaded. You have Matthew Stafford, who is an old veteran Super Bowl winning quarterback who is inarguably one of the best to ever play the position in the NFL. You know, is he top 25 all time? Comfortably. Is he top 20? Probably. Is he top 15? Well, we'll start splitting hairs there, but he's excellent. Brock Purdy has proven to be a consistent leader of the San Francisco 49ers. He only seems to get better. A little shaky in the postseason last year, but heck, I mean, it's very obvious that the San Francisco 49ers have found their franchise quarterback. Then we get to the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. Not so much. Geno Smith. Okay, so he said they wrote and he didn't write back. But here's the problem. It only lasted a year because in 2022, what he did on the field was amazing. What he did in 2023, not as amazing.
So what I can say about the Seahawks is I think that they have a phenomenal running back room. Kenneth Walker, stud. And then you remember they bring in Zach Charbonnet. They drafted him a couple years ago. And last year they started towards the end of the season to start to utilize him a little bit more. And the UCLA running back has some serious juice in Zach Charbonnet. I think that this year is much more of a 50-50 split. They're going to take a lot off of Geno Smith. And it is going to be a run-heavy offense. Who's the head coach? Mike McDaniel? No,
you got it. He's Mike McDaniels. He's the former defensive coordinator for the Michigan Wolverines.
Does he have the same name as the Miami Dolphins head coach?
Yeah. Yeah, look it up. So he is going to be the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Another defensive-minded
Mike McDonald.
Oh yeah, man. It doesn't matter.
Well, there's 9 new head coaches.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. So Mike McDonald, thank you, former defensive coordinator for Michigan, worked under Jim Harbaugh, now has the head coach role in the NFL. And I'll say this: a lot of defensive-minded head coaches have just been hired during this past coaching cycle, and a couple more were available. Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick, both of them are obviously working as analysts on staffs throughout the NFL or with networks who are going to be breaking down football. I digress to prove the point. I don't think this is going to be an all that successful season for the Seattle Seahawks just because of who they're competing with in the division, because you look at the Arizona Cardinals and they've been down for a couple of years, but Kyler Murray, look, he is very much a vitamin C type of quarterback to any offense in the NFL. If things get hairy, he's going to run out of trouble. He's an incredible athlete, and now he's a veteran athlete. We'll see how he looks and feels after having a pretty horrific knee injury as he's still recovering from it. But I'm a Kyler Murray fan-ish. There are times where I really like his game. Overall, I haven't been overwhelmed by it, but I would say that's a third place team. The question is, Rams or Niners? Who is going to take home this division? And I ask that because the Rams snuck into the playoff team unbeknownst to a lot of people who weren't paying attention. That was a good football team, but they had some injury struggles throughout the year.
I do not see the Rams dethroning the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I do think the Rams have some serious pieces, but they're missing the most serious piece. Aaron Donald is not going to be on this team this year.
That is correct.
You talk about the biggest difference maker of the last 10 years in the NFL? His name is Aaron Donald. Like, that dude is ridiculous what he was able to do. Matthew Stafford going into however many years this is, potential Hall of Famer now that he has the Super Bowl. He has all the stats for it. We've always known that. Running back's a little weak. Kyron Williams had an okay year last year. Blake Corum, Boston Scott, Ronnie Rivers. No one jumps off the page there. Wide receivers are where they make their money. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Is Puka Nacua actually that good, or did he take the whole league from surprise? I would tend to think Puka Nacua is the real deal.
No, he's the real deal.
And Cooper Kupp coming off a year with injuries again, you hope that he's healthy this year.
You could trust Puka Nacua because what he is, and this is the reason why he had so much success, is a smart player and a great route runner. He's a great route runner. He gets himself open because he understands defenses. You can tell also when a receiver understands defenses because they know where their problems are. He comes out of break sometimes and he's sprinting across the field because he knows he's in man coverage. He comes out of break sometimes and he's throttling back to stay in his zone window. This guy is smart. He's talented. He got it right away. He's working with one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league in Matthew Stafford. So no concerns there. Concerns though on the defensive side because Adam Schefter reported out of training camp and this was just yesterday. Excuse me. No, this is earlier this morning. This is breaking news actually for the Rams. They have a projected starter named Darian Kendrick, their team's 2022 6th-round pick, who is slated to be their starting corner. Is feared to have a torn ACL during practice. So he's going to undergo additional testing to confirm the initial diagnosis. But you just mentioned a defense that loses Aaron Donald suspected. They knew that, but this situation is unexpected.
So that's 2 cornerbacks in 2 days now. Who one obviously who was it? It's Darian Kendrick.
Yeah.
So he was picked 2 years ago in the draft. He's going into year 3. That's when you expect a defensive player to step it up, and he tears his ACL. Mekhi Blackman with the Minnesota Vikings going into year 2 tears his ACL right before everything gets going.
Yeah, look, training camp is tricky because you have to. There's no choice. You have to hit. You have to have physical drills. You have to get guys ready for the rigors of the upcoming season. And I hate to say this, you would rather a guy get injured now if it's going to be a season-ending injury, so you know what you have to prepare for this upcoming season, as opposed to game 2 when you've now built the strategy around having them. And so if there's going to be corresponding roster moves to help bolster the back end of the Rams defense or a receiver room, in the case we were just talking about there, yeah, you would rather know sooner than later. It's just unfortunate because these things happen, and you try to throttle back the violence of camp as best you can if you're a head coach, but you have to get these guys ready because it just is what it is. It's all right.
I thought you were done.
I have a lot to say, clearly.
I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No. It's okay. I was taking a break for air because I realized I've just been doing nothing but just yammering my. You know, I'll let you go first. Maybe I should take a timeout.
Well, no, actually, I want you involved with my morning monologue.
Oh, okay.
I have questions.
No timeout.
Okay. Kendall, I know for a fact, is not listening this morning.
Okay.
I need to do something special for her tonight. This is one of our last free nights of the summer before because we're going on vacation next week. We're going to be with family the whole time. We won't have time, just the two of us, to go out. Tonight, we got a dog sitter because he's staying at the house that we're at while we go on vacation. And then it's just the two of us, our condo, dinner. I don't know what to do. Thoughts?
Okay.
I wanted to go out to a nice dinner.
Yeah. What's her favorite type of food?
So we've done a lot of the really cool places in San Diego.
Sure.
Like we've done Barbusa, we've done the Bona Forchetta. I don't know if we're going Italian tonight. She loves sushi. I don't want to pay for Nobu.
Okay, I wouldn't take her to a Nobu because, look, I'll tell you some of the reasons later on, but I would say this. There's a lot of really beautiful places to go take somebody for a bite to eat near the water. So one of the things I'd encourage everybody to do when they visit San Diego is do something near the coast, because what makes the city so great is the fact that it is an oceanfront city. I mean, downtown, the gas lamp. I mean, if you walk west long enough, you will walk off a harbor, so it's what gives this city charm. Obviously the weather is fantastic. The people are great, but the water. So I'll give you, there's a place, I'm fairly certain it's still open in Pacific Beach called Cannonball. It's a sushi restaurant that's on a second deck. It's right near Belmont Park. It's got gorgeous sunset views.
I'm getting a reservation.
And
What's it called?
I believe it's called Cannonball. They might have changed the name.
Cannonball Pacific Beach.
Yeah. And it's got these glass barriers that you can see through. So it doesn't matter where you sit on the outdoor deck.
Damn.
You're going to be able to see the sunset. So it's sushi, it's sunset. You're smelling the ocean air. It's one of my favorite places to have sushi because I don't honestly care how good the food is. As long as I'm looking at the ocean, I'm having a good time. And the drinks are good.
Done and done.
Okay, there you go.
Richie, nice work.
Yeah. So I'm glad to handle all of your problems. Now here's my problem. Both of us were thinking the same thing. So there is a countdown clock in front of us. It's the NFL season. And it's quickly approaching. It's the Aztecs football season, and it's quickly approaching. And like you pointed out, your Saturdays are filled because, you're doing the Aztecs broadcast, and then your Sundays are filled because you're laying on the couch.
Yeah, generally during college football season, I leave the house at 9 a.m. I'm not back till like late at night.
Yeah, same. And sometimes I'm on the road. So same. The problem is Sunday is also a really busy day for me.
Yeah, you're on the couch. Well, you have a radio show to host. I have a fantasy football team to manage.
Okay, so.
Or 6.
Yeah. Are you in 6 leagues this year?
I'm cutting back. I think I'm down to 4.
I am so glad you brought this up because I was going to mention. So I've just started to get the text messages. I'm not in a single dynasty league. I don't do all that. I can't pay attention to, my roster, my team throughout the year. Like, I know there's more important parts of the year than others. I'm not going to do a dynasty, but every year I get invited into a bunch of different leagues. Last year, I ended up signing up for and contributing to 5 different fantasy football leagues. Too many. There have been years where I've been in one, and that feels like too few. Now, I've been in 3 or 4 or 2 at different points throughout my fantasy football years playing, which were after my playing career ended. And I don't know what is the perfect amount of fantasy football leagues to be involved in?
I do think it is 3. And one of them
3.
has to be big money.
Okay.
One of them has to be friends from back home. And one of them should be work.
Okay, so we definitely have a work league.
So we have the work league.
Yeah.
That honestly is probably too much money. That's my honest feel. Like, I think it's $100 a year, right?
It feels good when you win it, though. Trust it
I'm
from
sure-
a former champion.
I'm sure it does.
I never gave the belt back, by the way.
I did get second last year, so I don't have to pay the entry fee this year, which is why I'm fine with it. But I would say for the work league, it should be more about, hey, I see you in the office the next day and I get to rub your face in it.
Right.
That's my feeling on that. The big money league, which ours is about $300 a year, we take very, very seriously. And it's not even guys I would necessarily consider like great friends. It's just guys I know from college who we all have the same passion. So we started that dynasty league. And that is like Kendall hates that league because I spend a ridiculous amount of money and a ridiculous amount of time in it. And we all take it very, very seriously. Then the friends from back home league is like $20 a year. And it is just all, if that group text got leaked, Rich, I cannot tell you how canceled I would be.
At what point now are all these on one app?
I've tried to get everybody to go over to Sleeper.
To Sleeper.
That's the best fantasy football app. It's not even close.
Interesting. I've never even heard of it. Yeah. All right. Okay. So 3 sounds fair. Yeah, because there's no getting out of this work league because
you still have the belt.
Because I still have the belt.
Even though you haven't won in 3 years?
2 years.
I think it's 3. I've heard Eddie Papani complain about it a lot.
We're going up, but he's counting this upcoming season. You can't count the upcoming season. There's been 2 champions so he was one of them. And there was no way I was giving Eddie Papani the belt. And also, I think it was co-champions that year. So screw
Thor
him.
is the reigning champ. He beat me in the championship.
I remember. And I would have gladly given you the belt. But to give the belt to Thor?
Do you know where the belt is?
Oh, yeah. It's in my spare room. I actually had to move it away from my bedside table because Annie did not like looking at it. She was like, why is there a wrestling belt over here? I'm like, don't ask questions you don't want answers to. That's what I said to her. And she said, get this the hell out of our room. So I did. That was months ago, by the way. So over the 2 years that I've held this belt now, that's the first complaint I got. I moved it immediately, but I still have the belt. All right, so maybe I'll bring it. Maybe I won't. Here's what I do know. I think 3 leagues is the absolute max. I know 5 was too many. I've been in 4. I definitely forgot about one of them. And I also know this about myself. If there's no skin in the game, I have no consideration. I was in a free league the year I did the 5. I completely forgot that. I lost my password, completely forgot that league existed, and people were mad at me. So that's what I want to avoid is like, you're busy during the fall. I don't want somebody mad at me because I'm not paying attention to the league. Okay.
You know what actually hurt my fantasy football life, but helped my life last year?
What was that?
Last year was the first year I had Prize Picks during the football season.
Yes.
So I would like make Prize Picks lineups pretty much every day during the NFL season, but then I would almost care more about those than my actual fantasy football teams.
I get that. That makes a lot of sense. Well, you're going to have company, buddy, because I'm with you on the Prize Picks this year. Okay, coming up next.
Promo code DOGS.
Promo code DOGS, DOGS. Get your first deposit matched up to $100. Okay, coming up next, we are going to chat about the Olympics, some of the preamble to the Paris Games you need to hear about. Also, as promised, Luke Bryan tickets. He's playing that Chula Vista show. That's an August 8th show. Like I said, if you want to find out how to win those tickets, you hang in there for the next 5 minutes, and you're going to find out real soon.
This update is presented by SDG&E. We will start off with the Padres. They're rolling. They took down the Nationals 12-3 yesterday behind another solid start from Matt Waldron. Morning baseball today, 9:05. First pitch, Dylan Cease going to be taking the mound for the Friars. In football, we got a bunch of storylines coming up. Lamar Jackson looks like he's a little sick. Lasted just an hour in his first practice yesterday. According to reports, he looked weary, and Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator for the Ravens, laughed it off when he was asked. 49ers drama. Brandon Ayuk was at practice, but not playing. Video got him going into the office with general manager John Lynch. Trent Williams holding out for a new contract, the all-pro left tackle for the 49ers. And training camp can be brutal. We just heard from the Rams that one of their cornerbacks tore his ACL yesterday, and Vikings cornerback Mekhi Blackmon tore his ACL on his first day of practice. Drake May, the rookie quarterback for the New England Patriots, is looking fantastic, and the opening ceremonies of the 2024 Olympics is coming up tomorrow. In peak wildfire season, as a last resort, SDG&E may need to shut off power in specific areas for public safety. Learn more about public safety power shutoffs at sdge.com/PSPS.
Promises made, promises delivered. In 4 minutes, you're going to find out how to win those Luke Bryan tickets. So if you're listening right now, just keep listening because we're sending you to Chula Vista August 8th to check out Luke Bryan. Okay, so the Olympics. Every year, we get several updates. You know, Snoop Dogg, he's going to be a torchbearer. You got Coco Gauff and LeBron James as the U.S. team's flag bearers. A lot of excitement about some of the early events going on. Some of the stage has been set. Like beach volleyball is going to be directly in front of the Eiffel Tower.
That is the coolest looking court I've ever seen in my life.
It's so cool.
So if you get the right angle of it, if you stand directly at center court of the beach volleyball court and you're facing towards the Eiffel Tower, it splits it perfectly right down the middle.
It's one of the coolest shots I think there'll ever be in all of sports because it's such a historical landmark.
And have you seen Team Spain?
Team Spain, the women's team?
That's the one.
Yeah, they're good at volleyball, as it turns out.
Vamos España.
Yeah, vamos España indeed. I will be tuning in. I'll also be tuning into the men's U.S. national team. Chase Buttinger is going to be one of the participants. He's a buddy of mine. Actually, his wife and my wife played volleyball growing up in club leagues around LA. He was a standout basketball player and volleyball player in high school, and he ended up going to the University of Arizona playing college basketball. He was a draft pick, played around the NBA for many years, and then became, in his post-NBA career life, a professional beach volleyball player, which he currently does. And now he's going to represent the U.S. men's on the sand in Paris.
That's awesome.
Dude is an incredible human being and one of the best athletes our country has. So really rooting hard for him.
Now, have you seen some of the storylines coming out already? Because certain sports have already started. Like soccer is going already. The men's U.S. team lost to France yesterday, 3-0. But in the Morocco and Brazil game, Morocco-Argentina game yesterday.
Yeah.
Like 45 minutes into the game, all the Morocco fans decided to rush the field, throw flares onto the field, throw trash onto the field.
Jesus.
It looked like a absolute chaotic scene. And it was because of what the fans presumed was a missed call. The fans were right. The fans were right about the call that got missed. The play actually got overturned, and after a 2-hour delay, play resumed.
One of the most interesting storylines, and I missed that one, is the fact that every year at the Olympics games, obviously COVID times withstanding, the amount of condoms that they hand out. So prophylactics, I mean, when you bring a bunch of young, attractive, strong, in their prime athletes together, there's going to be some hanky-panky. There's no question about it. And in fact, I want to say it's probably now 15 or 20 years ago was when the cardboard beds debuted at the Olympics. And they said, oh, this is because we're going to save the environment, quote unquote. Meanwhile, one of the side stories was Olympians breaking beds at record rates because, well, sometimes they weren't alone. Sometimes they had company.
They are cardboard beds, but when you look at them, and there were a couple Olympians who did like a tour of the room and they showed the cardboard bed. It does look very sturdy. but it looks sturdy to sleep on. I don't know if it looks sturdy for other bed activities.
Yeah, listen, there was a gymnast who was trying to showcase how strong they were by doing like acrobatics on the bed. And I'm like, yeah, but you're a gymnast. You weigh like 110 pounds. You ever see a 300-pound hammer hit a 2-inch nail?
There's also, God. There's also weightlifters at the Olympics who are much bigger than a gymnast.
Yeah, dude, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about construction sites. Anyways,
everything you just said just went into my brain.
You're welcome.
I was like half listening, and then I caught up to me.
Try to guess the number of prophylactics handed out at the Olympics. Try to guess.
So I remember a couple years ago, it was in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I'll give you a hint. So, the last Olympics games, Summer Olympics games that were actually played, 300,000 condoms were handed.
Did they run out?
They ran out.
Bump it up to 5.
500,000. That's what
500,000.
Okay, that's what they're prepared with.
Seems absurd.
That's what they're prepared with. But think
how
about
many Olympic athletes
10,
actually are there? 10,000. So, but does that mean everyone's gonna have sex 5,000 times?
Is that? No,
I don't know.
No, those numbers don't add up. No. It would be everybody going at it 50 times, right?
How many athletes are there?
There's 10,000 ish approximately who are going to arrive in Paris.
10,000 times 50 is 500,000. Still,
I mean 50 times, but they're there for like a month.
Yeah, but not everyone's gonna do it.
Well, not everybody, but some people are going to do it 100. I don't know. All I'm saying is you got to be prepared, and being over prepared in this case is better than, I don't know, a gymnast coming home with a bun in the oven from Paris. All of a sudden you have baby Eiffel being born 9 months later.
I half think that the Olympics leaks this number out just to generate hype and make the Olympics sexy and make you think about raunchy stuff when you're seeing, like, I don't know, track and field people, so it gets you more interested in watching.
Well,
this is subliminal messaging 101.
Well, sex sells, we know that. And by the way, some of these Olympians, they're aware of it, and so whether they're men or they're female, it doesn't matter. Go to their Instagram accounts. Like, some of them understand, the more of me I show off, the more endorsements I get.
Yeah,
so,
you think Michael Phelps really needed to do the whole arm workout right before he got in the pool?
No, maybe he didn't.
That was for the ladies.
Yeah, absolutely. Showing off all the back muscles. Yeah, and look, whether they burn through every single one of the 500,000 or not, that is a hefty number. And by the way, you don't just go out and spend that kind of money, because I don't know if anybody knows the prices of these things. They're not cheap necessarily. So you're talking about a pretty decent expenditure. Imagine doing the budget if you're the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, and you're like, how much do you guys want to spend on condoms this year?
We just paid $6 billion to get the infrastructure for the city set up. You asked me to spend another bill on condoms?
Yeah.
Imagine in 2034 when the Olympics are back at Salt Lake City, it's the 2034 Olympic Winter Games presented by Trojan.
It wouldn't be a bad idea. It would not be a bad idea. Okay, as promised, Luke Bryan tickets. If you want to catch the August 8th Chula Vista show, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, you can get tickets at Ticketmaster.com. No problem. Details and seats available at Ticketmaster.com. Or you could call in 2 minutes at 7:43 at 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. Call at exactly 7:43 for those Luke Bryan tickets. More show coming up next. Big Rich here. Well, kind of Big Rich, I guess medium-sized rich. I don't know. I've lost a lot of weight, and it's with the help of SDFatLoss.com. SDFatLoss.com sounds gimmicky when you first think about it, right? Okay, so what are they going to do different than anybody else? Well, it's not a fad diet, A. B, you're losing weight the natural way. Natural way. You're not getting injected with anything. You're not getting meal replacement shakes sent to your house. This isn't one of those situations where, you completely cut out a part of your diet for a time and then you never get to eat that food again. It's just completely unsustainable. It's nothing like that. It's a weight loss plan followed by a weight maintenance plan so that whatever you lose, you can keep off. It doesn't stop at the fat loss. It never stops. It's a lifestyle change. And that's what I loved about this is consistent help from our friends Wayne and Chloe, the weight loss team at SDFatLoss.com. I lost 35 plus pounds and I've kept it off. Fletch, he lost over 30 pounds when he first started SD Fat Loss, and then he went back on the weight loss phase and he lost about 15 more. So he's down somewhere over 45 pounds now. TD, he's lost over 30. He's kept that weight off too. How did we do it? We did it with a little bit of gumption and a lot of help for our friends Wayne and Chloe over at SDFatLoss.com. If you are looking at your summer calendar and you say, yeah, we still got that trip coming up, and yeah, we got plenty of beach trips, but the summer's almost over, and I promised myself I'd lose all the weight, and you haven't done it yet, trust me when I tell you, if you're looking to lose weight fast, but then keep the weight off, this is the way to go. SDFatLoss.com. And by the way, if you sign up right now and you mention Big Rich, TD, and Fletch, you're going to save $200 on your subscription. That's SDFatLoss.com. Big Rich, TD, and Fletch.
This will not be podcasting.
You're damn right. We're going to be cutting this out because we are royalty free. Sweet child of mine. All right. So congrats to
Roberto.
Thank you.
Had a very funny comment on our Olympics conversation.
Oh, he did.
He said, take all the condoms away.
Yeah.
In 18 years, we're going to have a new generation of super athletes.
Dude, Olympic athletes in some ways are kind of being encouraged to, knock boots and get busy, because if you think about it, these like care packages or like the rooms themselves are armed with all of these prophylactics. So like they have like little messages like, hey, be safe, use consent, like stuff like that. Like there's messages on the outside of the actual condom packaging. So it's a thing. It's a real thing.
Just Americans, maybe stay with Americans so we keep all the talent here.
Well, that's a good point.
Don't share that with the rest of the world.
We don't need dual citizenship when it comes to the games. We want it all to be America. All right. Listen, it's a melting pot anyway. So I suppose it doesn't matter where you just meet the most beastly athlete you can and just
raise them here.
Yeah. Raise them in the States on American soil. And we'll be damn glad to have you. We're damn glad to have you in with us this morning, Big Rich, TD, and Fletch. TD is in New York. Actually, he's enjoying his final day in New York.
What are the chances they try to get their flight moved up?
No, I don't think so, because I spoke with him a little bit yesterday. So here's the deal. Sarah's got plans. like he's not off the hook yet.
They did go to one of those restaurants where they mix cheese
in the big cheese wheel.
So they put like pasta inside a cheese wheel and mix it up.
I still have never done that in my life.
Me neither.
maybe you and me need to go on a date.
Little date night?
Yeah, fettuccine.
For the boys?
For the boys? Couple of guys just out there having a little fettuccine? Cheese wheel side? That sounds good to me. Also, they did tableside tiramisu for him and Sarah. Yeah, dude. I like, if there's one thing I appreciate is dinner with a show. So like going to those restaurants, like there's one down in Mexico where they make the Caesar salad next to your table. Actually, they do it at the original hotel where they first created the Caesar salad. They do a tableside Caesar salad. I watched this video where they were doing this steak tartare where they include everything. Like they even grind the meat at your table. Like
when did we have steak tartare? And Travis took like one bite. It was like,
oh, dude, he freaked out. Oh, I know where it was at. Busa.
Yeah, you're right.
It was at Busa. And he had bone marrow for the first time.
He did not like that.
He did not like that either. He has. I said this. I think it was 2 days ago. He has the taste of a picky kindergartner. Like taking him out to a fancy restaurant is an enormous waste of time because you could easily take him to the McDonald's next door and be like, this is amazing. Did you know that some of the meals come with toys? And I'll be like, yeah, everybody knows that. They're called Happy Meals. And yeah, bone marrow is not on his training table. Speaking of training table, so the Padres, they're coming off a couple of big series wins. They've already beat the Nationals in this series. They have their getaway day today, first pitch at 9. Really impressive what they've been able to do over these last couple of days before the trade deadline. But I want to ask our listeners out there about the most important name in the organization during this time of year, and that's AJ Preller. So AJ Preller is responsible for this 54-50 record. AJ Preller is responsible in some part, not in every way, for whatever success the Padres have had this season. So I asked this question, Padres fans, and hit us up on the talkback mic. You know where to find it. It's the little microphone button. It's next to the play button on the iHeartRadio app. So if you're listening to San Diego Sports 760, you can leave us a message by clicking that little microphone button, 20, 30 seconds. We can play it right here on the air. What did you think of AJ Preller to start the season? And what's your opinion of AJ Preller right now as we head into the trade deadline? Has that opinion changed? Because a lot of people were pissed at Preller after the meltdown last year, wanted him fired. I'm curious if you still feel the same way now. Has that opinion changed? Fletch, I'll start with you. I'll ask you. I'll give my thoughts on the other side. But do you feel any differently about the Padres president of baseball operations and the general manager and the roster constructor of this team now than you did at the start of the season?
So I think my opinion's actually been the same on him for the last 3 years. And I, to be frank, did not think AJ Preller would have a job this year with the San Diego Padres because of the meltdown that was last year. And I honestly thought that when Jace Tingler got fired, he was going to get fired as well. Well, AJ Preller has this habit of surviving fired managers. I believe he's on to his 6th. AJ Preller, if they don't make the postseason this year, no longer has the safety net of Peter Seidler, and God, I wish he did. But Peter loved and put up and made excuses and decided to keep AJ Preller for a really, really long time, maybe to the benefit, maybe to the dismay of San Diego Padres and their fans. I think AJ Preller's saving grace, if he is to keep his job this year, even if they miss the postseason, which at this point, I think they're going to make the postseason, but say they miss it, say something goes disastrously wrong, and that month of August that we think is kind of a layup schedule ends up being just a huge thorn in the side for the Padres, and the Padres miss the postseason this year. AJ Preller's one saving grace, Rich, is that over the last 3 years, the Padres are second in baseball in attendance.
Yeah.
And as of this year, they've had, I think it's 94.7% capacity throughout this entire season at Petco Park. AJ Preller puts butts in seats. Whether that's a GM thing or not, that's what it's going to be treated as at the end of this season. So even if this is a disaster, the front office can look at that, and AJ Preller would be smart to, and I'm sure will bring up the fact that in all of Major League Baseball, it's the Philadelphia Phillies, then the San Diego Padres, who put the most butts in the seats at a most consistent rate.
So we have a couple of tweets or texts coming in on the text line. If you ever want to text the show, 70470, start the message with team, and we'll see it right here on our dashboard. Also, as mentioned, we'd love to hear from you on the talkback mic. The talkback mic is that microphone button next to the play button on the free iHeartRadio app. You could leave us a message there. We could play it directly on air. Also, this message just came in. AJ has the testicular fortitude to come off a crummy year last year to totally redeem himself by adding superstars and putting a collection of players who dominate. New paradigm shift for the Padres. So
Testicular fortitude.
okay, so
What a phrase.
having some of the cojones to come back from a bad year.
Can someone describe me like that?
Well, yeah, I guess somebody could. I just don't think they would.
You want to do it?
Yeah. Coming up next, I talk about Ben's testes. No, we'll stick to baseball for a second. Anyways, here's how I react to this. He had more superstars last year and it didn't really work. Like, I do understand it is a paradigm shift, but it isn't one that AJ Preller likes. AJ Preller, if he had it his way, he would have kept Juan Soto and paid him, and he would have added more superstars.
And kept Blake Snell and kept Josh Hader.
Yeah.
Look, the fact of the matter is they go into this trade deadline in a worse position than they could have because of AJ Preller. I know I said it last year, and I don't want to be that guy who looks in the past, but they absolutely should have traded Josh Hader and Blake Snell at the trade deadline. Now, Blake Snell ended up winning a Cy Young with this team. That was a great win. Could you imagine what this year would have been like going in with one of the best farm systems in baseball because you traded the best pitcher in baseball and the best closer in baseball at the trade deadline?
Man, I'll tell you, I get it.
Those two would have garnered a load of prospects, Richie.
Okay, but at the same token, and look, 2020 hindsight, and we all know that, yes. But at the time, and I honestly, even if we revisited it,
they were 6 games back from 500 at the trade deadline a year ago.
But they were so talented that they could have made up that gap in a hurry. I mean, the Padres already this season have done that or close to that a couple of times over. They've made up these sort of disparities. You can't tell me that they couldn't do it last year with arguably a better roster. They could have. So to answer or react to yours, and then I want you to react to my thoughts on AJ Preller on the other side, but to react to your thoughts on AJ Preller, I do agree with you. This guy has sidestepped landmine after landmine after landmine so far through his career as a general manager and a president of baseball operations with the Padres, and it's because of Peter Seidler. I don't think he has that safety net anymore, and I think it's actually improved how he views roster construction. I think he's become a little bit more creative, maybe a little bit more trusting in some places that he used to not be as trusting. And I also think he's probably going to look at this roster a little bit more pragmatically moving forward. Like maybe some of the quote unquote untouchable current MLB stars on this rosters, maybe they're not so untouchable after this season. Like maybe if they do have a playoff run and some of those quote unquote stars aren't contributing the way they should be to this playoff run, maybe some of those guys are up for trade, because I don't want anybody to get, old and rotten on a contract in my house. Let that happen elsewhere, or
they're gonna.
Yeah, well, it's possible. But frankly, I just feel like some of the moves that have been made recently, and there have been 3 specific big moves that have been made on this roster in terms of improving this lineup and long-term deals. It's very rare that you nail it on all 3. Like one of those is not going to age well.
Xander, Manny, Fernando, and Yu Darvish will all be old Padres.
And one of them, at very least, one of them is not going to age well. So my question is, which one is it going to be? And when do you make that decision whether or not it's time to move on? And by the way, with no trade clauses and things like that, I understand there's going to be a lot of people who are citing those facts, but everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. I'll give my thoughts on how I feel about AJ Preller now versus how I felt about AJ Preller at the beginning of the season on the other side. We want to hear from you though as well. So if you want to text the show, 70470, start your message with team. Also, the talkback mic is open on the free iHeart Radio app. Big Rich, TD, and Fletch continues next.
This update is presented by Sheridan San Diego Hotel and Marina. Padres get started early today. It's going to be a 9:05 first pitch after yesterday's 12-3 beatdown of the Washington Nationals by the San Diego Padres. Dylan Cease going to be on the mound today. Tons of news and notes around the NFL. Lamar Jackson apparently was looking sick at practice yesterday. He lasted only an hour into his first practice of the season. 49ers drama. Brandon Ayuk was at practice but not playing. Video did get him going into the office with John Lynch as the wide receiver looks for a new contract. Trent Williams, 49ers All-Pro left tackle, also looking for a new contract. He is holding out of training camp. Speaking of training camp, Vikings cornerback Mekhi Blackman tore his ACL on first day of practices, and Jets lineman Mekhi Becton reportedly threw up 10 times at training camp practices yesterday. I'm sure Rich Ornberger knows a little bit about that. You may have never leave the newly transformed Sheraton San Diego Hotel and Marina. All new guest rooms, new pool and cabanas, plus jet skiing and paddleboarding in the marina. Hungry, savor, Cali, Baja dining, or grab a beer at Brewery X. Book now, Sheraton San Diego Hotel and Marina.
Big Rich, TD, and Fletch, welcome in, and happy Thursday to those who celebrate. Man, oh man, it's almost here. The weekend approaching, and tomorrow we have a Bar Car Friday brought to you by Keg and Bottle, 10 locations around San Diego. Tony Kanja and this show, or I should say the remaining pieces of this show, since TD has been on vacation, all went out to Steel Canyon for the Long Ball Invitational. We played in a golf tournament on Tuesday. And so we've got some big plans for tomorrow's show. Looking forward to that. We also need to get back to some NFL news and notes around the league's training camps as they're all open or almost open.
Were you a puker in terms of getting like over dehydrated, over exhausted in a practice? You puke?
No, I never. Well, I shouldn't say never. I think I've only puked a few times, like a handful of times, and usually it was associated with having too much food before a practice or a workout. But like,
were there guys who puked all the time?
Oh yeah, there were certain guys who had a hair trigger. There were certain guys who would if they got to a certain point. I know this sounds ridiculous when you look at the current shape I'm in, but I was a really good stamina athlete in terms of you could pretty much torture me and I could make it through. It bothered me. It certainly bothered me plenty, but there was this point that I would reach in my brain where I'd be like, yeah, I think I'm going to die. And I was just okay with it. So I got to that point several times during workouts and games and practices, and I never did die. I did get shipped to the hospital once in my career, though, because of heat stroke. I was with the Patriots. I can't remember if this was my rookie or my second year. I think it was my rookie season. And I was working with the first unit on the offensive line, the second unit, and I think somebody got injured and I had to work with the third unit on the offensive line. So I wasn't getting any breaks at practice. It was like one of those 90-degree, 80% humidity days. You're wearing the 30 pounds of football equipment. There was no time to take my helmet off, or the gloves off my hands, let my body cool down. And so at some point, I don't have a very good memory of what happened. But at some point, apparently, one of the trainers saw I was wandering around instead of getting in the huddle, and I collapsed, and they were terrified. So they drove the stretcher out on the field, and they helped me get on it. They drove me to the training room. They dumped ice on my body. They cut my clothes off. I woke up in the hospital 30 minutes away from the Patriots practice facility.
Jeez.
And the first thing I remember, because I don't remember much about the practice day, but I remember the first thing I saw was in the corner of the room I was in. I thought it was a monitor, but it was a television. And I looked at it. I thought I was in jail. Like I thought I had gotten arrested. So I'm looking at it because you know how hospital rooms, sometimes they look really like sterile. There's not much in it. So I'm on a bed. I'm like, am I in prison right now? Like, what
did I do last night?
Exactly. And I felt like I was still in a dream. And then the trainer who I guess took the ambulance ride with me, he was still sitting next to my bed. And he was just like, buddy, you were out of it. I was like, what happened? He was like, I asked you who the president was. And I was like, what did I say? He said, Clinton. We were in the Obama administration. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I was out of it. He was like, yeah, it was not good, dude. He was like, we thought we lost you. And I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, so what did you do? He was like, well, we started giving you IVs And he was like, and you've had 6 liters of IV fluid put in you. I was like, 6 liters. And then he goes, yeah. He was like, do you have to pee yet, by the way? And I'm like, not even a little bit. He was like, okay, well, they're not going to let you leave here until you pee. I'm like, how long have I been here? And then he looked at his watch and he was like an hour and a half. I'm like, no way. So I like lost like 4 hours of my life as a result of heat stroke.
That can't be good for you.
No, probably not.
No, I feel like that might have some long-lasting effects on you.
Yeah, I probably did.
So the reason we bring this up, Mekhi Becton, who is a Jets, offensive lineman?
Yeah, offensive lineman. Yeah, it's big offensive tackle.
Big dude. Apparently puked like 10 times at practice yesterday. Like getting their first practice back into it. Probably hasn't worked out that hard in a long time. And just kept going. He just booted and rallied the entire time.
You kind of have to. Listen, if you can't practice after you puke, and also if you're the type of person who does have a hair trigger, and maybe Mekhi Becton does and knows it about himself, you can't play football. Like there are way worse things that are going to happen to you on a football field than just throwing up a little bit. So nobody has any sympathy for you, because football's been happening for a long time, and a lot of people have thrown up and shown the propensity to be able to play through it. So it ain't an excuse. Now, what Lamar Jackson was going through, a little bit different, because not only are you ruining your day, you're ruining everybody else's day if you poop your pants.
I hope that the Lamar Jackson thing isn't something like really serious and we've been making fun of it for 3 years, because it really has been since that primetime game where he left the field in the 4th quarter and was doing the poo-poo dance, you know?
Yeah, he was waddling off the field.
Like it already happened or was rushing to make sure it didn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now it's like every time something with Lamar happens, and apparently yesterday he got an hour into practice and a similar thing happened where he had to get off the field and wasn't seen again after that. So I hope it's not something serious that's wrong with him. But it is kind of funny.
It is. Well, yeah. Well,
if it's what we think it is.
Well, everybody's had that feeling where it is a race to the finish line. And I don't care if you're a football player and you're rushing off a field to get to a locker room.
Yesterday.
Yeah, actually, yeah. For Fletch, it was a photo finish yesterday. But like, yeah, everybody's had that feeling where you finally get through the last street light, the last red light on your way to your apartment or your house or your condo, and you're thinking to yourself like, oh my gosh, I am not going to make it. And like, as the key enters the door lock, you're like, we're already at liftoff. Like, I don't know what this is going to look like on the other side. And it's like your brain knows like how close you are to your bathroom. And that's like, it's just like, well, listen, I know we still have 10 feet, but we don't care. Like, this is happening, buddy. So get ready. That's the worst feeling in the world. And so imagine if you're Lamar Jackson and this happens to you often. Like, what a terrifying experience that is anyways. And then you have to do it on national television sometimes.
So Aaron Rodgers talked about it the other day, how football training camp used to be hard. It used to be 2-a-days, and it used to like actually be really physically enduring. And now it's really not, according to what we've seen, at least so far. Like
Aaron Rodgers is also a quarterback.
He never got hit anyways.
Yeah, dude, like when a quarterback talks about how hard training camp used to be, shut the hell up. Like Aaron Rodgers, okay, I bet he's gotten pretty sweaty throwing the football, but Aaron Rodgers has never had a tough training camp in his life. I'm sure it's really difficult to like step back and throw the football, but all quarterbacks, this isn't just Aaron Rodgers, but all quarterbacks, when you complain about training camp, I want to remind you that the guys who are literally protecting you on every play are offensive linemen who actually have hard training camps. It's so ridiculous hearing a quarterback or a punter or a kicker or anybody who plays these. Sometimes we actually like have to run like those types of positions. When they complain about training camp, it drives me insane.
So I think his point was now they only have one practice a day. And majority of the time, no, it was fantastic. That will be clipped and put on social media alongside Aaron Rodgers' take earlier this week. But now it's 1-a-day practices. They're not all that physical. You're not really supposed to hit. Like, in fact, a fight broke out at the Kansas City Chiefs practice yesterday because somebody got hit. And most of it's like mentally enduring now. Like you're in a bunch of meetings, watching film, putting in installs mentally, not actually on the field. And then it's a lot of walkthroughs on the field. Which would you rather have?
Oh, dude, 100%. 100% the way training camp is set up right now. I think it's better for the athlete. I think that football becomes way more of a mental game when you get over the initial couple of years where you're learning the speed of the game. Now, don't get me wrong. It benefits certain players to have more time on the field. There's no question about it. There were benefits in my early career being out on the field, smashing heads, proving my toughness, like those sort of things, because training camp very much so for a position like offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, running back, even in some cases, tight end, depending on what type of tight end you are, it is a proving ground to show how tough, to showcase how tough you are and how resilient you are. Because resiliency and toughness are a big part of being a football player at certain positions. But overall, it's not good for you. Like taking a staggering amount of hits to your head over the course of a very short amount of time isn't good for your brain. It's not good for your body. So yeah, I think the way they do it now is safer. It's better for the athletes. It leads to probably overall healthier players or players who feel healthier. And the mentality of a football player is just as important as the physicality of a football player. So if you feel good, you kind of are good, so I think training camp, yes. Is it different? Yes. Is it softer? Yes. Is it safer? Yeah. But it's also better in my eyes.
So we've had 2 season-ending injuries. Well, most likely 2 torn ACLs, one with the Rams, one with the Vikings. 760 says, question for Rich. Do you think all these season-ending injuries already are because the players maybe don't take care of themselves in the offseason and then go full go?
Yeah, well, you see this every year during training camp. I don't think it's any different than most training camps we see. I mean, some years more, some years less. We might be in one of those higher years in terms of injury rate.
I hope not. I cannot do another year with 67 quarterbacks.
Yeah, me
Please,
neither.
God, no.
But I will say this, the majority of athletes are taking insanely good care of their bodies in the offseason because there's no off switch anymore. It used to be, look, training camp was obscenely important because a lot of these guys were like substitute teachers during the offseason, or they would work in factories. Some of them worked in factories throughout the season. You know what I mean? Like, so you needed training camp because these guys were away from the sport, weren't even paying attention to their bodies, and then they had to get back into playing shape. Training camp's so much less important now in terms of getting players into condition or shape. And there was no better indication of that than the pandemic season. Because when football started kind of all of a sudden after the pandemic, all those players were in pretty good shape, so I think it's very different now. And also, if you look at the injury rate that year, it wasn't insanely higher than it was in other seasons throughout the course of the recent history of the NFL. So I don't think there's an association there.
615, damn well Fletch typed in Brock Purdy muscle before he even knew he had gained 20 pounds of muscle. Yeah, we can keep that one going. And then a bunch of restaurant recommendations. Fletch hit the Bali High.
Oh, Bali High.
Never been there.
Yeah, that one's good. Yeah, great views. Again, restaurants with a view, and this is no offense to a lot of the great restaurants, for example, in Little Italy, or great restaurants.
Up on Convoy Street, there's a ton.
Oh my gosh. Some of the best Asian food you will ever eat is on Convoy Street. But yeah, I digress. There's plenty of great places to eat around San Diego inland or away from the ocean. But when it's a special night for whatever reason, if you're taking, your date out and you want to impress them, there's nothing more impressive than watching the sunset over the Pacific Ocean.
Now, I don't know what this is in reference to. This came in at 6:56, but I'm just catching up on the text line. From the 858, Rich, we all know you haven't read a book since high school. Now, allow me.
That's fairly accurate.
It's not. Rich actually, pretty smart guy.
I don't know.
It actually does crave knowledge about random stuff. Like he knows a lot about alien theories and history from 400 years ago that doesn't matter, and potential civilizations that began way before we know life existed on Earth. But if he doesn't read, he listens.
Well, I don't know if either are true.
Do you listen to books though?
All right. So one of the best things that's ever happened to me was finding out that you can listen to books on tape. They don't call it tape anymore, but you can listen to books like Audible.
Yeah.
I don't know how many books I've listened to. I can tell you how many books I've read as an adult. Not many, but listening to books, I mean, throughout the course of a year, I don't know, it would be an absurd number. It's because I like it. I like listening to stories. The reason why I'm even interested in radio is because I like telling stories and listening to stories. So I listen to a lot of books.
913, by the way, it's his 44th birthday. Happy birthday, Jeremy.
Happy birthday, buddy.
He says, any plans for upcoming listener events for the opening game of the NFL? Perhaps a big game tailgate to kick off the season.
Jeremy. All right, so check this out, buddy. We've got a lot, and I do mean a lot of plans that are coming up very shortly. So buckle up, buddy. There's going to be some real fun things happening with Big Rich, TD, and Fletch here in the very near future.
It's about all we can say right now. And 360, what happened to Rich's Preller assessment?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. So yeah, we got to hit
quick halfie.
We got to hit a quick halfie. Congrats, by the way, to Roberto, who won those Luke Bryan tickets. We're going to have our last pair on this show coming up tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So if you miss out on winning them all 4 days this week, we will have Luke Bryan tomorrow. We'll do this first, and then I'll give you my thoughts on AJ Preller at the beginning of the season and my thoughts on AJ Preller now. But first, let's do this. All right, here he is. You've been waiting all day to hear it. It's halftime, brought to you by Fletch.
Steve Kerr finally called out Team USA. About time someone did it. God, our basketball team for their tune-up games looked like a disheveled mess of Jason Tatum throwing the ball into the second row, along with Anthony Davis trying to do behind-the-back stuff that never really worked. Honestly, the only person I give any credit to for Team USA, and this is going to be very off my norm, is LeBron James, who seemed like he really cared through the 4 or 5 games that they played. They got games coming up on Sunday. They're playing against Serbia. What up, Nikola Jokic? Like, good luck. It's starting off rough for Team USA, and if they lose this year, that will be an absolute embarrassment. 2 torn ACLs already in training camp, which you hate to see. Rams have a cornerback, last name Kendrick, first name?
Darian
Kendrick tore his ACL, and Mekhi Blackman with the Minnesota Vikings, the second-year cornerback who they were expecting big things from, also tearing his ACL. Let's see. Padres, 9:05 first pitch today, set up perfectly for 9:99, even though Rich is a wimp and doesn't want to do it.
That's right.
They took down the Nationals 12-3 yesterday behind another solid start for Matt Waldron. Dylan Cease will take the mound at 9:05 today as the Padres look for their 5th straight win.
Unbelievable run that the Padres are on. Perfect timing for the Padres to be on said run.
Oh, and also Brock Purdy gained 20 pounds of muscle. Brandon Ayuk seems like he's figuring it out with the 49ers. Trent Williams is holding out for a contract adjustment.
We're going to get to some more NFL news and notes coming up here next because Fletch gave you a download of some of the overview stuff. We'll take a deeper dive on some of the specific talking points because there are a lot. Training camps are open. There's a lot of things happening, a lot of new information. I will turn my camera back on. My computer just turned off on me. I apologize. Okay. So anybody watching on the stream, we apologize.
You are just a black box right now.
Yeah, and so is my computer. I think I'm going to get a new one.
Is that the one that you spilled all the vodka on?
This one has so much vodka inside of it. I mean, so much whiskey inside of it, so much tequila. This has been through wars. I still see splatter from past Bar Car Fridays all over the screen. I mean, it's a black screen. You can barely see that it's black because it has that like thin sheen of like, it looks like paint splatter. Like it's a Jackson Pollock masterpiece. Anyways, I digress. AJ Preller at the beginning of the season, if you would have asked me, what's the odds that he would be fired by midseason? I would have said pretty high. I would have leaned 65, 70% chance that AJ Preller could be fired by this point in the season. And I think I was pretty honest about that. I didn't think it would necessarily be the right decision. I didn't necessarily know if that was really the intent of the front office around him, the ownership group, but I thought there was a possibility. My thoughts personally on AJ Preller is, look, the record is the record. He hasn't been a winning manager. He really hasn't been. Now, he's had some great pops. The 2022 season was great. The pandemic season was great. A lot of fun watching the Padres. Outside of those seasons, and last year being a winning season, but an enormous disappointment, he's done a lot of losing as a general manager.
Disaster in 2019, disaster in 2021, 2023, maybe the biggest disaster of them all.
Yeah, and so with every successful year, there was maybe an equal or worse disastrous season. So again, if you were going to quantify my thoughts on AJ Preller and put into a sentence to start this season, dead man walking. That's how I felt about AJ Preller. How do I feel about him now? Unfireable. If they fired AJ Preller right now and during this season, it would be one of the most confounding, confusing decisions the Padres have ever made. Because AJ Preller, if you like what the Padres are doing right now, he's responsible for it. He has been given sole authority over this roster since he's been a general manager, or at very least a president of baseball operations. If you like Mike Schilt, if you like his leadership, if you like the tone he's set this year, he is a lieutenant of AJ Preller. He literally got rid of Bob Melvin because he wanted Mike Schilt to take the job. Now, they interviewed other candidates, and I'm sure if somebody else seemed like he would jive better than Mike Schilt, maybe Schilt would have stayed in the front office as a front office member. But Mike Schilt wanted to manage. He knew that he had a friendly at the field level and working with the players in the dugout, and so he put him down there. So if you like Mike Schilt, it's because of AJ Preller that he's here. If you like Jackson Merrill, it's because that's a hand-picked selection by AJ Preller. If you like Jurickson Profar, there were a lot of options out there. He could have signed just about anyone. He brought in Jurickson Profar, who's having arguably one of the best seasons we've seen a utility player, former utility player, now a starter in the outfield, have in a very long time in a Padres uniform. So unfireable. He is now an untouchable man. Now, that could change a lot over the course of the second half of the season. A lot can change between now and the fall. But as it stands right now, my thoughts on AJ Preller, he's unfireable.
If they miss the postseason?
Well, then it changes. Look, with new information comes a change in heart, a change in opinion. And I promise you my opinion will change if that's the case.
If they miss the postseason, I do think he's gone. And I don't know that anything helps the case. I think it's probably pretty black and white. I think it was black and white for AJ at the beginning of the season. Like, he's well aware of that, which is why I think this trade deadline is probably going to be pretty impactful. AJ's going to do whatever he can to make sure they get extra pieces in here, because he lived through 2021 when they ran out of starting pitching in the second half of the year. He lived through 2019 where they got to the postseason and everything just kind of fell apart. Or 2020 when they got to the postseason and everything fell apart. So I think that AJ Preller is going to be overly cautious here, not rely on the hope that Yu Darvish or Joe Musgrove can make some sort of return, but go out and get somebody here in the next couple of days. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened today, to be quite frank.
Yeah, by the way, depending on when Darvish returns off the restricted list, or if, by the way, because we've heard that he could, it's just as likely that he's back as it is that he doesn't play another single game this season. So that we're being right now, even if he was available, say for a playoff push, how much are you going to trust Darvish? I mean, I wouldn't.
Same with Joe Musgrove. What are the chances he actually comes back from this injury and is effective? There's a chance, there's probably just as good a chance he isn't as is.
Well, and you got to make plans for that. You have to fortify this roster. And if you're AJ Preller, that's your plan. Now, if you're this Padres ownership group and your plan is to move on from AJ Preller, good or bad, at the end of this season, are you really going to let him go back to the well, take more of your future capital and spend it on the now? The answer is probably not. We're going to learn a lot about the Padres plans with AJ Preller through this trade deadline.
Now, Richie, you can go ahead and go do your next thing. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to tell everybody about how Wayne and Chloe saved our lives.
Yeah, they really did.
And I don't know that that's a huge exaggeration. Like, we were heading down a pretty bad path, the three of us. We all were the heaviest we'd ever been. Rich was up over his old playing weight. TD, my God, he was like 290 pounds, and that's not a frame for 290. And I was 278, and this definitely is not a frame for 278. It was the heaviest I'd ever been. Really, since I got out of college, I kept gaining and gaining and gaining weight, and it was a runaway train for a while. Wayne and Chloe stepped in, and they saved it. They really did. And they stopped it on its tracks and turned it around the opposite direction. From that day that I woke up weighing 278 pounds, we weighed ourselves here in studio. I'm down into the 230s. I feel fantastic. I got a big vacation coming up where I'm going to be at lakes, a couple of different ones over the course of a couple weeks. And I'm not nervous about taking my shirt off anymore in front of my family or in front of Kendall's family. Like, I'm fine with it now. If you're ready to get to a place where you feel good about yourself when you look in the mirror, get on over to sdfatloss.com, and it only takes 2 months. It really only does. You could lose 30 to 40 pounds within 2 months' time. All of us lost more than 35 pounds. And if you remember us then and you look at us now, we all feel much better every day. I've stopped snoring, which my wife loves. So if you're looking to make a change in your health and you're ready to get that body back that you had when you were in college or in high school, you can do it. And it's really just a couple clicks away. So sdfatloss.com is where you got to go. Sign up for a free consultation. Mention Big Rich, TD, and Fletch. You will save $200 if you purchase the program. And really, all we're asking you to do is have a conversation with Wayne or Chloe. One of them will be the one to answer the phone. They've been our weight loss team. And just have a conversation and see if this is for you. Because with sdfatloss.com, it worked for all three of us. And it truly and honestly did. And Wayne and Chloe, ever since we welcomed them into the family, our lives have gotten a little bit better. So make that call, make that change. It's a free consultation. And then if you do decide to purchase, make sure you mention Big Rich, TD, and Fletch so you can save that $200. Coming up next, we will continue on with some NFL news and notes. A little more Padres talk as we get ready for first pitch, which is coming up at 9:05 this morning. It's Big Rich, TD, and Fletch. Don't go anywhere. This update is presented by the Jim Trail Real Estate Team. Padres be rolling, yo. They took down the Nationals 12-3 yesterday behind another solid start from Matt Waldron. Morning baseball coming up today. 9:05 first pitch as Dylan Cease takes the mound for the Friars. Steve Kerr, in some Olympics news, he's the head coach of Team USA, begging his team to raise up the intensity, quote unquote, it's time. They play Serbia on Sunday. Would you like to know what your home would sell for today? Get a simple text message with your home's value by texting your address to 855-600-6000. You'll get no phone call, just a text. Jim Patrol has the buyer. Simply text your address to 855-600-6000.
You look at a team like the Padres and you say, gosh, getting hot at the right time. ESPN has a stat up. The Yankees just finished up the Subway Series against the Mets, a 4-game series in the Bronx. The Yankees were outscored 36-14. They got swept. Just awful. Through June 14, the Yankees were 50-22. Since then, 10-22. It's unbelievable. So in the span of time, obviously, from the start of the season through June 14th, that was the best winning percentage in all of Major League Baseball. Since then, they've had the second to worst winning percentage in all of baseball. So trust me when I tell you, it could be way worse. If you're disappointed so far with the Padres season, I'm not sitting here with pom-poms. I'm not cheerleading for this team. I've been equally critical as I have been complimentary of this team. But I will say this, it could be much worse. It is very easy to have this feeling of the sky is falling in San Diego being a Padres fan because, let's face it, we've been through a lot. But this is a team that has shown some fire. This is a team that's shown a lot more gumption than the team they had last year. And so, like many people have stated, and I'll repeat it here today, there may have been a little addition by subtraction. And I'm not blaming current New York Yankee Juan Soto for being the problem and that trade being the solution. I'm not saying that Josh Hader isn't a great closer because he is. But Josh Hader refused to pitch outside the 9th inning. Juan Soto talked about how the team gave up. Blake Snell, while he was a great guy and a fun interview, was a little bit in his own head, So I'm not saying anything about those guys saying that they couldn't be a part of success for this team too, because they were. I mean, if we just rewind the clock to 2022, they were part of a successful season. It's just that this is a different makeup. Also, by the way, a different manager at the field level, Mike Shildt, setting a very different tone for this team. And every year is a different year. So I don't know. Just wanted to illuminate the point that things could be much worse, much, much worse than they currently are. And they have been going really well on this road trip leading into this this trade deadline. Okay, back to the NFL we go. So we've had a lot of notes passed along to us. One of the most interesting notes is the fact that at the same time, Trent Williams is looking to restructure his deal with the San Francisco 49ers. One of the big stories out of this offseason was the fact that Brandon Ayuk officially announced that he wants to be traded from the team, and the star wide receiver has now reported to training camp and has been spotted with John Lynch having conversations on the sidelines at said training camp, but also walking to his office. So it's looking like the San Francisco 49ers are going to have the whole band back together, and they're going to take another run at the Super Bowl this year in 2024.
So every Thursday, Albert Breer jumps on with Jonas Knox, LeVar Arrington, and Brady Quinn right before we get on the air. Two Pros and a Cup of Joe is on the air every morning. And Albert Breer has been on this the entire time over the last 6-7 weeks since the Brandon Ayuk stuff started really popping up. And he has been steadfast in his messaging that Christian McCaffrey doesn't restructure his contract at the beginning of the offseason if they weren't going to sign Brandon Ayuk. He also said they weren't going to restructure George Kittle a year ago if they weren't going to sign Brandon Ayuk. He also said that Eric Armstead would still be a 49er if they weren't going to sign Brandon Ayuk. This is going to get done. I think that a lot of this has been posturing from Ayuk's side especially, and from the 49ers, arguing over a couple $1 million, because I think that's how far apart they are. And with Brandon Ayuk being there, that makes me think that it's actually going pretty well.
Yeah, listen, it never felt like more than a leverage play when Brandon Ayuk said that he wanted to be traded, because let's face it, who are you going to be traded to? It's going to be a team in the NFC like the Washington Commanders, who are going to fight out of the basement of their division. It's going to be a team like the Los Angeles Chargers, who are fighting out of the basement of their division. You're not going to be traded to a good team. It's so rare that it happens, because good teams are good because usually they're using up most of their cap room. Okay, so you're going to go to a team that is willing to part with some future draft picks to leverage their future. Or, I mean, in the rare occurrences, maybe you could get lucky and you could get traded to a team who's desperate for that last and final piece, and the window is only open right now, like the New York Jets, maybe. I mean, that name has been floated out there for Devontae Adams or Brandon Ayuk both. And you can make the cap space situation work if you want to leverage the future. But I get back to the original point. Where's the best spot for him? I don't know. How about the spot where he caught for over 1,000 yards, over 1,200 yards last season, and for close to or over 10 touchdowns last year as well, with the San Francisco 49ers, who appeared in the Super Bowl? Like, so it makes the most sense.
And the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year.
Correct. It makes the most sense. I think this is exactly how this is going to go. And I'm really curious to see. I'm really curious to see when. My guess is soon. My guess is very, very soon. You know, what's interesting is we mentioned there briefly the New York Jets, and I want to take a deeper look at them for a moment as well, because Aaron Rodgers has spoken a lot recently as training camps have opened around the NFL. And some of what he said was he was kind of displeased with the messaging about him missing that mandatory training camp or mini camp practices to finish out OTAs. He also talked very much so like there's a chip on his shoulder, the way that it's being discussed, that, you know, this isn't really a big deal that he missed that. And then, oh, by the way, they have an important holdout on their team as well. So are the Jets, I don't want to make this an overblown conversation, but with Reddick out, holding out for a contract, and Aaron Rodgers kind of not so subtly attacking his head coach for not having his back during that time, are the Jets already in the sort of discord and disarray that is going to preempt an awful season, or do you think they pull through all this?
I know you and TD are both actually kind of high on the Jets this year. I don't see it. I really don't. Maybe Aaron Rodgers proves me wrong and he comes out and is playing at the MVP level of Aaron Rodgers. But don't you think he's been focused on so much not football that it might be kind of tricky for him to do so? Like, I know he's going to come in prepped. I know that Aaron Rodgers' teammates love him and say he's one of the hardest workers, best teammates to have. I just have seen over the last 2 years, he's been focused on a lot without a football, right? And I wonder what that changes. And then even the kind of not complacency, but almost the disgust he has talking about training camp and talking about all the work that he's having to put in right now. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like a guy who's fired up for a season. That sounds like a guy who's bored with football.
Well, okay. I don't think he's bored with football, because if he was, I don't think he would be playing. This is a person who's flirted with retirement. And also remember, he's had that Achilles tear and had to fight all the way back to get to the point where he can play again. So you have plenty of time to think about what's next. And also when you have an emergency, such an urgent situation as an Achilles tear, like you could call quits right there, and nobody would be shocked and everybody would be supportive. But he's a 4-time MVP for a reason. He's a Super Bowl champion for a reason. He is a Hall of Famer whenever he decides to retire, first ballot 5 years after his retirement for a reason. He has what it takes to do this. Now, I know a lot of people like you are low on Aaron Rodgers. I would say the part of his game that you have to question is leadership. And we were just talking about it with the Padres. Mike Schilt breathes new life into this team as a tone setter and a manager. That switch, I think, was instrumental in maybe the way the Padres are playing this year over last year. Maybe the message got a little stale with Bob Melvin. He got sort of parachuted in at the very beginning of the 2022 season, didn't know this roster from Adam, and they had a bunch of success. Maybe once the roster got to know him and he got to know the roster, the messaging wasn't working, as it turns out. So I look at this situation with Rodgers and I think, well, there's been no time for really the messaging to wear out, because he wasn't really a part of the team last year.
He was on for 5 plays.
Yeah.
And then it was like the constant threat of him maybe coming back at a certain point in the season if they could put themselves in a good enough situation. I don't know that that was ever even real, but he was pretending like it was.
So I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but he really hasn't even had a chance to be a leader of this team
yet. AFC is freaking loaded.
The AFC's good.
Loaded.
CJ Stroud, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it's not getting easier. By the way, Anthony Richardson healthy, all in the AFC. I'm probably missing one. Somebody's probably screaming a name that I missed. All in the AFC. It is a really, really tough time to be an AFC quarterback. It's a really tough time for a lot of people out there who have been walking around all summer long, suffering with back pain or foot pain and ankle pain, maybe knee pain, hip pain. I get it. I've been there, and it sucks. When you have lower body joint pain, you feel like you can't do anything. Maybe you like to work in the garden, but your knee's too sore to get down and trim up the tomato plants. Maybe you love walking the kids down the boardwalk during the summertime, and you can't do it because your back is so sore waking up in the morning you feel like Frankenstein's monster. Maybe you're a fisherman. Maybe you're somebody who just likes to cast off the pier. You can't do it because standing around hurts your hip so bad that it feels like it's on fire after an hour. I get it. I've been there. Playing 6 years in the NFL left my lower body pretty damaged, and as a result, I was considering multiple surgeries. And then I found the Good Feet store. Good Feet store, it seems like a simple fix. It seems kind of unbelievable that it would work. But just by simply changing the foundation of the rest of your body with these arch supports that you wear in your footwear, it can change the way your body feels. And that's what happened for me. Start wearing these Good Feet store arch supports, you feel the pain melt away. I felt it in my right knee specifically, my right hip, and my lower back. Those three were absolutely punishing me on a daily basis, and it was interchangeable or sometimes two or three all at once. It stunk. But after finding the Good Feet store, I felt that pain melt away, and it's long-lasting pain relief, and it's the way you probably should walk, and you just didn't realize it because finally your arches have the support they so desperately need. So go to the Good Feet store. It's a try before you buy experience. You can make this decision before you spend a single dollar, whether these arch supports are right for you, whether you want to walk out with them, but they are life changers. So I caution you, if you walk in there and you like them, you're going to want to wear them every single day. And that's what they prescribe. All right. So check them out at goodfeet.com. And tomorrow could be the first day of the rest of your life with the arch supports from the Good Feet store. Goodfeet.com. Big Rich, TD, and Fletch, San Diego Sports 760. If you love the show and you want to hear more, very easy. All you got to do is tune into 101.5 KGB from 3 to 7 p.m. tonight. We will continue our weekday broadcast, if you will. So looking forward to that. Also looking forward to tomorrow. Bar Car Friday, first and foremost.
Oh, yeah.
Brought to you by Keg and Bottle. KegandBottle.com. Tony Kanji going to be in studio. 10 locations, by the way, Keg and Bottle all across San Diego. So if you want to get your weekend started right, you need a wine, liquor, beer, you know where to go. Also coming up tomorrow, congrats to Roberto, today's winner of the pair of tickets to see Luke Bryan, August 8th show, Chula Vista. If you want to win those tickets, keep listening. We have your last opportunity to win a pair on our show coming up tomorrow on the program. Okay, so bottom of the barrel coming up in just moments. Before we get to that, TD's still out. He is on vacation. He has been gallivanting all around New York City. And like we said, we were teasing because when he was texting during the show yesterday, he was actually sitting in his hotel room watching the History Channel instead of doing stuff around the city. Well, they got out. They ended up getting out. They took a whole buggy ride. Like they were in the back of one of those bicycles, one of those bicycle buggies. They went all around Central Park, and then they got dropped off, ended up having a nice little Italian meal. And so he and Sarah, they've seen a lot of the city. He was giving me some of the updates. They've seen a lot of the landmarks, and they're going to hit like 3 in a row. They're going to go to, I think they're doing St. Patrick's Cathedral, maybe Rockefeller Center, Radio City Music Hall coming up today.
Why not the Statue of Liberty?
Well, it's
Empire State Building.
Well, Empire State Building is a lot further downtown from where they're going to be. The Statue of Liberty, a lot of people don't know this, but it's on an island. It's not like like if you've ever seen views, the reason why it's always looks like it's surrounded by water. Well, it is. It's like it's almost closer to New Jersey than it is New York, but New York obviously owns the rights to the statue and all the tourism money that comes in. But yeah, Statue of Liberty. I don't think he's going to make it this trip. That's my guess. So TD is going to be flying back to San Diego. He'll be back with us next week. And then it's your turn, buddy.
I'm out.
You're taking the Midwest tour.
Yeah, we'll be gone until like the Saturday night. And then we're actually going Kendall's older sister's birthday. So we're going to the racetracks, not the Del Mar racetracks, but what's the one up in Long Beach?
Santa Anita?
Maybe. So she has a box for her, I think it's her 40th birthday. So we're all going to be sitting in a box at whatever the racetracks up north are.
That is
You got any jockeys that you know that are going to get dead last place in every single one of their races, Rich?
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten out of the business of giving horse racing advice because as it turned out last time,
suck at it.
Yeah, I do really suck at it. Although that guy didn't end up getting on the horse he was supposed to get on.
Sure, if that's your excuse. Now, the Del Mar racetracks are opened up, and we haven't talked about it yet this week, but TD went to opening day.
Oh, yeah.
And TD made a video at opening day.
Yeah, for bottom of the barrel, I'd like to direct everybody's attention to Big Rich TD and Fletch, Big Rich TD Fletch on Instagram, or you could go to 101 KGB on Instagram. You could really go to any of our accounts on Instagram. You could see this video of Travis Dale running into one of the cast members of MILF Manor,
which was covered heavily on this show.
Yes, because one of us needed a car at a certain point in their life. And
by the way, the person we're talking about is happily married.
Right. But at the same token, I'm fairly certain Kendall would have traded your body, your flesh for a single night in order for you to come home with like an operational set of wheels. So you guys needed a vehicle. And if it meant that you had to prostitute yourself to a grandmother who had a dependable Buick, like a grocery getter in her garage, you would have parked it also.
You're going to have to talk to Kendall about that. I'm going to say that's not the case.
Wait, you don't think she would have let you lend? This is a rental. This isn't for keeps. You're not playing for pink slips here. You're just going out there, maybe serving as a little entertainment.
But anyways, TD is essentially, while he's at the racetracks, trying to set me up on a date with this woman. Again, happily married. I have no interest in going on a date.
But she seems to be very interested in you.
She does, and they often do.
Well, so see, this is my point, buddy. Like, you got to lean into it. You're like catnip for 60-plus-year-old women.
He also found one of the cast members of Cobra Kai, which is coming out, or it's out, the newest season. The first installment of the final season is out now. And that was pretty cool to see him run into that. And then the way he ate a kiwi. Now, I'm not familiar too much with kiwis, but I've never seen someone just take a bite out of a kiwi with the skin still on.
You're not supposed to eat the fuzz. Everybody knows that. You spit out the fuzz. Okay, Fletch. Who do we think?
Well, we didn't have any guests, but we do thank Roberto, who won those Luke Bryan tickets. If you want a chance, coming up tomorrow, listen to the entirety of the show on the free iHeartRadio app. Download it, listen to the podcast, subscribe, follow Big Rich, TD, and Fletch everywhere you go. Thank you, Rich Ornberger. Thank you, TD, who I'm not convinced won't be in studio tomorrow morning for a portion of the show.
As mentioned, the hangers, the bangers, the roadies, the dogs. We'll see you on 101.5 KGB starting at 3 right now. We'll get you set here on San Diego Sports 760 with the Herd.